A very good morning, guys. We will begin in another 5 minutes. Let everybody else join in the meantime.
Okay.
So I request everybody to be on mute mode. Thank you. Hello, everyone. A very good morning to each one of you. Hi, good morning, Interpreet. And I do hope that my voice is completely and perfectly audible. I can see many of you are still joining, many of the students are still joining, but then we will begin with the session. Good morning, Ishan. Good morning, Bunty. Good morning, Lalita. Yeah. Good morning, Chahat. Good morning, Hitesh. I can see many of the familiar names. Probably with some I've interacted during ATX and with some I've interacted during taxes, right? Good morning, Shobhit. Okay, so first, let me introduce myself. I am your trainer, Anshu Budhia, and I would be taking up your SBR sessions. Currently, I take the other subjects at VGLD, like taxes and ATX as well. Okay, for any questions, any queries, you can reach out to me like all the times that you have queries. Okay, multiple times you can ask me the queries, questions, get it resolved. Okay, and understand the concepts, understand the focus points, and then whatever queries, questions you have, you can always come to me and ask them. We are going to be having weekend sessions, but as we move forward, I will take up some weekday sessions as well. For reasons like number 1, to have more practice of the questions. Because of the time constraints that we have and considering the syllabus of SBR, we would be having, we probably will not be having much of the time to do a lot of practice of the questions. And for your P levels, you need a lot of practice, because here practicing is not just doing calculations. Practicing is writing the answer in the best way, because you have marks for your skills also. I'll talk about the paper pattern and everything. Okay, so I think I've made it clear that we will be having weekend sessions, but to support them, we'll be having some weekdays as well. I will share the schedule of the same after a week. First, let's get us accustomed to these sessions, and then I'll be sharing the schedule for the weekday sessions to start the weekday classes parallelly. Okay, but yes, I would be keeping it at the time zone that is generally preferable by everybody. So we'll be discussing the time, and accordingly, I'll be fixing it. And otherwise, the recordings would also be available. Before I start discussing SBR more, let me navigate you all to the ACCA Global website, and let's just have an introduction video of SBR. Okay, so that would give us more insights, and then definitely we are going to be talking about more topics, how we are going to go about with the syllabus and exam pattern and everything. Because this is step 1 that you all should be knowing, that the paper for which you are studying, which is a compulsory paper to clear, the paper for which what you're studying, how you're going to go about it, what are the kind of questions that you can face. So we'll talk about it in a one. Okay, before I go to that ACCA Global website, quickly guys, tell me if you have any questions, queries to begin with. Anything that you want to discuss first before I take up those portions. Anything, any concerns? No, it's not practical. It's not practical, Aditya. So just like ATX, it is not that practical. If you remember ATX, we had a mix, right? Of practical as well as a lot of writing. See, here also you have a lot of writing. It's based on FR, financial reporting. So we'll be discussing about the different financial reporting standards. But SBR is more about application of those standards, is more about interpretation of the financial reporting framework, standards. So it's just like you have joined a company and you have a scenario where you have to apply your standards. So whatever data that you've learned, whatever standards, IFRS, IAS that you learn, or that you understand, now application of this in the real life scenarios is what is SBR about. The study material is fully sufficient in the pre. The reason being, of course, when the content is created, everything is considered when creating it. Okay. Yes, exam will be computer based. So I would be discussing about that exam pattern also, Gaurav, just in a while. So I'm going to the ACCA Global website. Now this is your go-to website always. One point that that is coming to my mind that I really want to share with you all right now is number one, please do not think of taking multiple contents, like we are following our content, so then going to take BPP content, Kaplan content, or some other XYZ tutors content, and using it all together is just going to add confusion. So only one advice right now that I want to give you all is, please just follow one content. There are a lot of questions in that content, and apart from that also, I would be giving you even more questions to practice at my end. Also, I would be giving you guidance that where is the place where you can find even more questions that is published by ACCA. Okay, so when you do all this together, I find it to be more than sufficient, because what you need to know is how to apply concepts, how to do the interpretations perfectly in the real-time scenarios. So this is what we are going to do in our class as well. Okay. Yeah, so let me just take you to the ACCA Global website. I'm sure everybody has visited that website so far. If you haven't, then it's no problem. I'll show you how to navigate there. Okay. My screen is shared. I hope my screen is completely visible to everybody with no glitches at all. I go to menu. Okay, and I select students, study resources, ACCA qualification, and we go to strategic business reporting. Okay, you can see this. Now, there are a lot of important and very useful tools that are given by ACCA that is going to support you for your exam purposes. So let's just discuss about few of those tools. But before that, let's have an introduction to SBR. In case if anybody faces problems with audios or videos, then just let me know in the chat box.
Strategic business reporting examines your ability to make strategic business reporting decisions. Building on your existing knowledge and skills, you will need to link accounting issues to relevant concepts in practical situations. You should also demonstrate judgment and consider the perspective of different stakeholders, such as investors, in your answers. You'll also need to exercise professional and ethical judgment. We know that students who have completed the Ethics and Professional Skills module are significantly more likely to pass SBR, so make sure you plan it into your studies.
What was one very important point that was given here? that SBR is all about putting your interpretations, using your professional skills, your judgments, and the knowledge that you have gained by understanding the relevant IFRS, IAS, for that matter. How you're going to apply them in the situation is a point that is going to be tested in SBR. See, when you are at skills level, okay, we do financial reporting. So in financial reporting subject, it's completely practical. What do you learn over there is what are the various IFRS, what are the various international accounting standards, right? And we solve questions to understand those standards. In SBR, this is an assumption that those standards are absolutely crystal clear to you. And now here we are going to apply them. But when we are doing SBR, when we are doing those relevant standards and the IFRS, I would be giving you a basic understanding also for what was already there apart in FR. But I would be taking those basics again, of course, in a more summarized way, so that we are clear with the basics and then we would know how to apply them in SBR. Okay, I'll not directly jump to the application part. First, we will need to do an understanding part as well.
ACCA recommends studying with an approved learning partner and using study materials from our approved content providers. However you study, ACCA will support your learning journey with a range of free resources. The Examiner's Approach article is a good place to start. We also provide examiners' reports which give constructive and detailed feedback, and there are technical and exam technique articles to further refine your knowledge and skills. To practice and perfect your exam technique, the CBE Practice platform replicates the real exam experience and allows you to practice up-to-date exam standard questions before marking and reviewing your answers using detailed marking guides and model answers. There are 2 sections in the exam.
So here we are going to discuss about your exam pattern. Okay, your exam paper is divided into 2 sections, section A and section B. Section A has 2 questions, section B has 2 questions. Let's understand them.
Section A has 2 compulsory scenario-based questions, totaling 50 marks. Question 1 is based on the financial statements of group entities or extracts thereof, and in addition may require consideration of financial reporting issues. Question 2 will involve the consideration of the reporting and ethical implications of some accounting issues presented in a specific scenario. Section B has 2 compulsory 25-mark questions, which may be based on a short scenario or a case study which has several parts, or an essay. They will contain both discursive and computational elements and could deal with any aspect of the syllabus. Using the resources available from ACCA and your learning partner is the proven route to exam success. So good luck with your strategic business reporting exam from everyone at ACCA.
Okay, so I think now we've got a fair understanding of the exam pattern. Of course, not in detail, that I'm just going to take up now. But there are few tools that are there on the website that I want you all to use them quite regularly. Okay, we also will be using some of those tools in the class. First point, your exam is completely computer based. Okay, what does it mean? It means that whenever you're practicing questions, you're not allowed to do it on pen and paper. Okay, the reason being, if you practice on pen and paper, you become habitual of that, patterns. But I want you to be habitual to the CBE patterns. So it means that can you do practice questions on the regular Excel? Ideally, no. You should do practicing on the blank space, the blank workspace, which is provided by ACCA. When you log into your My ACCA portals, you'll find it over there. In fact, when the right time will come, I will also guide you how to go to that, blank workspace. Ideally, you should be doing questions and that workspace only. Why? The only reason is the Excel that is there in the CBE platform and the Excel that we use normally, the Microsoft Excel and all those versions, then in that case, many of the shortcuts, the features, the cells, they are disabled in the CB platform. So when you are practicing already in that platform, you don't find it, to navigate or to move, to do questions difficult in your exam time. However, if you have lack of practice, you find your time to be unnecessarily wasted in the exam center because you are not able to navigate properly. You are not able to go ahead. Okay, so for this reason, it is very, very, very essential that you're using your CB workspace, the constructed blank workspace, quite regularly. Okay, and of course, using it fully so that you're all very much prepared and well versed with the Excel that you're going to face in the exam. So this is your CB introduction tool. Now, what is more important for me is that when you are doing this, when we are going ahead with the syllabus, after we complete 1, 2, 3, some chapter that I would be guiding you, I want you all to access your ACCA Study Hub. So ACCA Study Hub has questions, has quizzes on many small topics, chapters. Okay, so that just adds on to the clarity of the topic that you've studied in the class. Because in SBR, the question that we face are not small questions, right? They are big questions. They are scenario-based questions. They involve 2, 3 standards all applied together in one question. Then section A and section B. So if we have quizzes where these scenarios are tested individually, in small portions, then it gives us more clarity. So ACCA Study Hub has those kind of questions. Apart from that, full-fledged questions are also there. But I insist every student for every subject, please follow and do the ACCA Study Hub questions, quite well. Because as per my experience that I've seen for the students over the years, and as per the students' feedback that they give me, that, many of the questions, the calculations, the interpretations that is there in the ACCA Study Hub, they get clicked in the exam. Okay, so some of the students have already appeared for the exams. I think they can all give me that feedback in the chat box. All the students who have given any paper in the past, any paper, skills in the skills in the P level, did you find the questions from ACC Study Hub, some percentage of it being clicked in the exam? Just type it in the chat box, please, everybody, and give me an honest answer. Did you find it? Yes. Prerna is saying yes. It is always. So therefore, ACCA Study Hub, I really don't recommend all of you to keep it for the end, that when we end with our syllabus, then you are going to open that. No, I will not recommend it. I know everybody is working. Most of you are working, okay, full time. I know you have a time constraint, but trust me, people, when you go in line with what we are doing in the syllabus and you just take out an hour each day, you will be able to revise the portions that we're doing in the class. Parallelly, you will be able to do questions also. So please plan your schedule accordingly. Okay, next, a very important resource that is given in the platform is your examiner's report. Okay, as the examiner's report is basically a summary. It is just like, for example, I'll open this report. This is for the March, June 10th exam. Now, if you find here, there is a question given. And for the question, so for the question, there are comments given by examiners that overall, how was the question attempt? How was the attempt by majority of the students? What was the low scoring portions? What were the high scoring portions given by the students when you read through each of the points given you? So how does it help you? Since you are going to face the exam, you would know that what kind of answers are not the ones that supposedly I should not be writing. Of course, we'll be doing that in the class, but it is an additional tool that is going to help you more. I don't recommend you to start reading examiner's report now because we have not done anything so far. But once we're doing few chapters, then you can open one of the reports and just see one of the question which is relevant. So even you can correlate better that what kind of approach you should avoid while doing the answering of the questions, and what kind of approach you should be going ahead when you are doing the answering of the questions. Okay, so this is one examiner report. So generally you have for each attempt. So there are multiple examiners report which are available. Recommended is at least 2 should be read through, should be solved, and should be, understood by you. The comments of examiners. Next, technical articles. Now, we do cover some technical articles in our syllabus as well. So there are some technical articles given to you for certain topics, for certain chapters in the exam. In the ACCA resources. These are given to you. So these technical articles are in aid. Okay, these are an additional aid for better understanding of those topics. So there we have videos also, right? We have these topic explainer videos. The content is written by senior ACCA professionals. So they act as an aid to you, as a support to you. We also cover some of the technical articles in the class. Some portions we cover it. But then, yes, when we complete that topic for which there is a technical article, please go through the technical article as well. Okay. Okay, then when we will be almost done with the 70 to 80% of the syllabus, so then we'll start solving the past exams, the question practice, CB platform specimen exams and all. Okay, so that we have more and more practice. So overall, please follow your examiner's report. Please read through your technical articles. I'll tell you why. One of the very important reasons why I say the students to go through the technical articles is because you have a testing area which is current issues. Okay, this is the testing area of your SBR. So current issues is not like your typical GK. Okay, current issues is basically those issues that are faced in your real-time environments for which you probably don't have a specific IFRS. Because for everything and anything, you cannot have IAS and IFRS on that, right? So there's some common issues or some general issues that you face. But when you do not have a specific IFRS or specific IAS, how do you use your judgment to solve that issue? Which is what we cover in the current issues. Okay, so these technical articles, they help you a lot when you are in the situation where you have to give your judgments, and where you have to do some interpretations, and where you have to apply your skills, and probably where you do not have any specific IFRS or IS applicable. So then it becomes more of a useful tool. So therefore, technical articles, they help you in going in depth for a topic. Okay. So any questions till this point? Please put it in the chat box. Any questions, anywhere that you have a clarity issue, you have any kind of queries, any kind of concerns, please type that in the chat box. And everybody's comfortable so far? Okay. We will be going through IFRS and IAS, okay, which are the generally accepted accounting procedures. We don't go in detail of the other standards. So there are some standards which are given, like for revenue, for non-current assets, share-based payments, employee benefits, taxes. All these will be going in detail. Fine. So you want to talk about US GAAP, then we're not going in detail for US GAAP, because what we are following here is UK versions. I hope, Navneet, that solves your query. Okay, let's proceed now. So I want to discuss few portions before we discuss anything else. Your exam pattern. I'll be sharing the Excel notes with all of you at the end of the class. Okay? Yeah, no, we are not talking about those FRS and all. No, we're not doing that. Because that is more from accounting point of view. I mean, in SBR for reporting point of views, we have only those standards that we have covered in FR. Okay, those are continued here. And now here with interpretation angle. Yeah, it is same. It is same, Pulkit. Okay, yeah. So now let's look at the exam pattern. Your exam, as I told you, is divided into two sections. One is section A, and the next is section B. Okay, section A has two questions. So let's just have an understanding about, like, what those two questions can be about. So yes, it is given in by ACCA that section A, first question, that is question 1, would generally be about the application, of course, application of different IFRS and IAS. That is a common feature for all the questions. And it is generally concentrating on group accounting. So question number 1 is on group accounting. Okay, and of course, with other IFRS and other IAS combinations, because they're always going to be tested. Question 2 is about ethics. Whether you talk about ethics, the frameworks, all these, the role of accountants, how to maintain those ethics code of conduct, okay, well, what principles to be followed, and if a particular situation is given, you have to understand, you have to basically you have to identify which of the principles of the ethical code of conduct they are getting breached, and then how to ensure that these ethics code of conduct are safeguarded. So like this, we're going to study different portions, different steps, different scenarios where this identification is to be done by ACC accountant. So yes, it's a very, very, very crucial area for your scoring purposes. It is not a very difficult area. It is a very crucial area because you need a thorough understanding of this ethical code of conduct. Okay, there is no need to memorize them, but understand them so that whatever situations are thrown to you, you are able to handle that and you're able to answer that. Identify the breach, okay, identify the loopholes, and accordingly give your viewpoints. So, question number 2 is basically focusing on ethics. If I talk about marks, so question number 1 is for 30 marks. Question number 2 is for 20 marks. Total, it becomes 50 marks. Okay, if I talk about section A, now we don't have any defined area. We don't have any defined topics where, we would be, that these questions would be based on these concepts or these topics. It is going to cover the entire syllabus and the different extracts. Okay, it can have extracts of different IASs merged together in the question where 2, 3 IASs or IFRS are asked, and you have to do the interpretations, calculations, and discussions, giving your viewpoints, conclusions, advice. All these portions can be covered in that question. So you will have here 2 questions, okay, covering multiple IFRS, IAS, okay, from anywhere in this syllabus. So the questions are of 25 marks each. So the total here again becomes 50. Okay, so now you know that your maximum total marks are 100. Okay, your passing marks are 50, but then by just giving a little more efforts, students generally have a benchmark where they generally score averagely above 65, 70. So this can be achieved for sure just by little efforts. Okay, that is, you just have to ensure that you are practicing enough. You're practicing for how to write the questions, asking for interpretations, asking for discussions, asking for advice. And for that, what I will be doing is I would be giving you regularly homeworks. Okay, not necessarily from this book, from other portions also. And what you would be doing is you would be writing your answers and sending screenshots to me so that we can discuss them in the class, right? Wherever you're falling behind, wherever there's a shortfall or you need more improvement in your answering, I would be guiding you for the same. Fine. Okay, any questions till this point, people? Any issues, concerns, anything? Please feel free to ask me in the chat box. So our mode of communication is chat box. Only if there is a need, I would be allowing you to unmute yourself. Otherwise, you would be there on your mute mode with videos off. Any questions, any concerns, anybody? Come on, give me a revert. I want the energy levels of my class to be higher. So I think all of you, no. Forget about CA exams. Now just keep your CA and ACCA aside. Let me tell you, I being a CEO also myself, I'm telling you, it's more of uh, practical based writing. It's more of practical based writing that you know about when you are, suppose I talk about IS 16. So now if I already know about that PP and the IS, the basics behind it, then it's easier for me to write in the exam, because what I'm writing is essentially that practical application only. Okay, so you just need to follow the class regularly, be there for the live sessions regularly. Try not to miss them unless it's very urgent, because with your busy schedules, it becomes challenging to go through multiple recordings for a week. So then that is why I insist that please follow the classes regularly, be there for the live sessions, and do not miss them. That is why. Okay, Navneet has asked a very valid question. It's weekend studying in the class, but it's going to be a regular study for you throughout the week. Okay, it is not that just by studying 8 hours in the week, you are going to be done with your exam prep. You have to study regularly. Please keep that 1 hour for every day included in your schedule. So for you, then your working hours will not be 9 hours, will be 10 hours. Am I clear? So whether it's your first exam, second exam, third exam, pattern is going to be the same. And I would be giving you questions to do. Make sure you do it sincerely. Okay, then of course, without any issues, you would be able to appear for your December and get very good marks. Okay, let's proceed further, people. Okay. Don't worry, Shobit, that's what I said in the beginning. As an extra effort from my end, additional to what we are going to do in SBR, I'm going to take up basics from FR also. Okay, and I'll be sharing some content, some notes with you in the class as well. So just follow them both when you're studying here for SBR. Just that much extra effort would be needed. If there's any additional article I would need you to read through, I will let you know for the same. Okay. For you, what you have to do currently is revising, understanding, and solving questions as we are doing in the class. Okay. No. No. Whatever is needed for your IAS and IFRS knowledge, we will have it in the class. The relevant IFRS, the relevant IAS, the relevant portions of those IAS and IFRS, okay, what is there in the syllabus, we're just going to cover that. You don't need to know entirely everything. No issues, Gaurav. Okay, I'll try my level best that I'm covering basics and advanced both together in the class, so that I know everybody should be on the same lines. That even if you have not done ACCFR, because many of you get exemptions considering your other degrees, so then in that case, you're not missing out on that. But of course, that needs some extra efforts and some extra sessions. So that is why I need those weekday sessions to give you some, sometimes these extra in data, to do questions, extra questions practice, and to make you all absolutely conceptually clear. Because see, there are two things. In order to clear the exam, in order to get a rank, there are two things that a person should be aiming at. Number one, conceptual clarity. Number two, application of that. So I would be making sure that we're doing both the things in the class. Okay, considering the time constraint, I would be giving you a few questions for homework also regularly. Please do them. And do not keep amount of them, pending questions. Please don't do that. Just do them regularly. Give that extra effort for whatever reasons you may be having. Do not miss the sessions. Even if you're hearing it, that's okay. You're not solving that questions. In case of some urgency, then it's okay. Just let me know in advance. But try not to miss the session. Okay, this is my sincere request. Now, another very important concern many times students have, then ma'am, would you be giving us breaks? Yes, I would be giving you 10 to 15 minutes break in the 4-hour session. Maximum 15, minimum 10. Okay. Now, let's just look at other areas. So there are few small pointers that I just want you all to understand is, okay, we can discuss about that later. What is the benefit of a rank? Doesn't it give you self-privilege? Doesn't it give you an advantage when you are in your work areas also? So I also got a rank in my exams. So it always gave me that privilege, right? So I think, and it's more of a self-pride also. You for that, just go to the ACCA website. You'll have all the details. Plus, we have a ranker in our class, Aditya. So you got a rank just in the last attempt in ATX. You can connect with him. I'm sure Aditya will guide you for the same. Okay, now let's come back to SBR. So for getting a rank, whether you get a monetary benefit or not, Hitesh, we have to give in more efforts. Okay, so forget about monetary benefits and come back to the place where you have to give in efforts plus. Okay, so please give in more efforts now. Okay, come on guys, quickly, just few more pointers. Few more pointers today from day one onwards. Your mind will not just work towards calculation. So in SBR, 40% in calculation, 60% is how you're doing interpretations, your discussions, your advice, all those suggestions, commenting is what is going to take 60%. And many times students tell me, ma'am, I don't know how to write it professionally. Professionally is no stigma. Okay, there is no there is no set rules that professional writing will include these. Professional writing is how you've read your IAS and IFRS, and when you're applying them, what is going to be a perspective, just write it down technically. You don't have to write fancy answers and stories. Okay, I would be guiding you that how you should be doing your writing, because you will have your marks for skills as well. But I'll let you know about that when we proceed in the questions. Right now, let's not talk about it. Just going to make you confused unnecessarily. Okay, so now let's talk about some other portions. Okay, so we have discussed about the ACCA global website that you guys are going to visit regularly. You are only going to use this content. Other contents you may be having, you may have got some PDFs from your telegrams, from your friends, and all. Please don't use them. So if you keep on comparing the contents, because no content is going to be same, of course, there's a plagiarism issue. Okay, so there is no content that's going to be same, but essentially they all talk about the same thing. So let's not confuse ourselves. Follow one content, follow one book, do a lot of questions from here, do from ACCA Study Hub, do from the question that I will be giving in extra. Okay, do from the questions that are there on the CBE platform. Boss, that's more than enough. You will not have more time than completing all this. So please keep yourself, stick to only one set of contents. Okay, if there is a need to go to other contents, I will be guiding you for the same. So for that, please have trust on me. Fine. Okay, let's proceed. So today I will be taking up the first chapter. Okay, we will be beginning with the first chapter, ethics and the accountant. Anybody has any questions, please let me know in advance. Right now, just let me, not for the chapter, but okay, any other points that you may have missed to ask me, please ask me now. One thing that I would like to say, it is not necessarily that we'll go in the same order of the chapters. I'll take chapters from in between also, which I find are more relevant to you to understand first, rather than going in the sequential order. Okay? Fine, then let's proceed with our first chapter. So guys, let's start with SBR, Strategic Business Reporting. Okay, if you have seen your book, if you have opened your book, you know that these portions are containing the contents or the portions to study from, and then you have your questions and answers given after it. So once we complete a chapter, I would be giving you, we would be discussing some questions in the class, as well as you'll have some questions in homework as well. Okay, so that you have a regular practice. Okay, let's start with the first chapter, ethics and accountant. Before I take up the topic from the book, let's just understand few things. Why do you think ethics, I mean, they are so crucial for an organization, for a government, for a country, and for you and for your exams as well? Why ethics are so important? Why they are called as a core area for a business? Any reasons? Can you give me any viewpoint of yours that why do you think ethics are such a crucial portion or such a crucial area for an organization? That following the ethics, following the code of conduct, the code of ethics. Why do you think? Please type it in the chat box. And I don't want any book languages. Huh? Please tell me what you think. Why do you think ethics is such a core area for any business? Come on, people, please type in and give your viewpoints. Okay. Any other points except for what Srinu has said? Very good. So we have now some practical answers coming up. So chart says it is ethics are needed to maintain integrity, to arrive at fair decision. Pushpa is saying, okay, Gaurav is saying ethics, they make the situations morally acceptable. Okay. Hitesh is moral responsibility and professional nature. Ethics show professionalism. Okay. So that an accountant will be acting in professional manner, like maintaining integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, and you're listing down all the principles. So it's a principle that can be accepted by everyone, standard reporting. Okay. So do we have other students also who are there in the class and you're not sleeping? Come on, Chetan. Here, I would be requiring your participation. Zamir. Inderpreet. You were giving me charts at the beginning and now no charts. I want your inputs, okay? Ishan, it's a participative class. You're not here to just listen to me and go. You have to give your viewpoints also. This is how you will develop your professional writing. Mukesh, okay? Nikhil, Nisi, Prerna, Pulkit, Saswat, Shrinu reverted, Suriti, and Shweta. Not every time I'll be calling your names, but I'm just telling you that these 4 hours for me, these 4 hours, you're not going to be blocking yourself for any other activity. So whole and soul in the class. Okay, maintain integrity, fine. Ethics are required to build trust of stakeholder on the financial information. Very valid point, very good point in the brief. People slip out due to business pressures. It is important that standards are followed ethically. So overall, what I take a viewpoint that you all have given is that, ma'am, in order to run the business, with a trust factor, and in order to ensure that people have trust, confidence, and we are doing our practices in the correct way, it is a responsibility of accountant to ensure that, the rules, regulations, reporting, disclosures are all done by the businesses in the most honest and the correct manner without any biasness. They have been prepared with proper professional skepticism. Okay, we have prepared them with the all the rules and regulations that are needed, all the standards are followed, so that the different stakeholders, whoever is using that financial statements, they have a trust, okay, that this business is ethically correct, this business is something that I can rely upon. For example, in India, we say Tata Group. Okay, Tata Group is that group that generally has a picture that it is a ethically, highly rated organization, where if you get a chance to work with, generally the people are happy to work in that organization. So various organizations, okay, be it Accenture, or for that matter of the companies like Meta, the companies like Google, they have we have had those cases like Toshiba. We have had those cases where there was a question that was raised on their integrity as well. Okay, so we'll be looking into many of these cases now. So, therefore, ethics is one of the most crucial areas for an organization. And who's the one who's responsible to ensure that these ethics or the ethical code of conducts are followed? It's us, ACCAs. Why? Because ACCA also has its ethical code of conduct that bounds all the ACCAs to follow it compulsory. So, every professional body has that ethical code of conduct. Okay? Why nobody likes a thief? Because everybody says, boss, he's not morally correct. He's deceiving somebody else. So that is why moral, ethics, they all go hand in hand. Okay? I hope I'm clear with the concept that what is the role of ethics for an organization or in an organization's working. Okay. Now comes the questions. Then what are the different stakeholders? Now, one request that I have, basically I'm putting it to everyone. When we are doing topics in the class, please don't do reading from the book. Okay, like for example, I'm discussing right now. Keep your books on hold. No need to look at your books. Just look at my screen. That's what I need. I will let you know when you need to look at your book. Close it. It's open. That doesn't matter. Okay, I want you all to focus on my screen because we are doing discussions, and I'm telling you these discussions, they help you when you're writing your answers. You can get those points from our discussions in the class. So comes now the next question, that boss, which are the different stakeholders for an organization? Come on, give me those listings one by one quickly, and give me a reason. If you tell me that, ma'am, investors are stakeholders, why those investors are stakeholders, what is the stake of their investments in the organization, so why are they stakeholders? Don't give me just one word answers. Banks, government, shareholders. We're not doing here FR, we're doing SBR. I want reasoning. So reasoning would be like, for example, if I say shareholders are my stakeholders, why? Because they're the investors. And these investors, they look into the financial statements in order to seek profits, because for them, their investments, if they generate higher return, it's their interest in the organization will remain. Okay, just give me a moment. Let me give you one answer. So in that way, we'll discuss other answers. Keep your writing on hold. Okay. So let's talk about shareholders now. So first point, I said that shareholders are genuine investors with the main purpose of earning profits. Okay, now, how do the ethical decisions they influence the shareholders? How do? See, because if the business is presenting the information ethically correct, okay, if they're giving the honest presentation of the data, so then the profit arrived is also correct. Then the earnings that is generated is also correct. And so the shareholder can foresee the return on their investments, okay, without having any mistrust on the data, right? They can foresee, okay, fine, that PNL shows me an increase of 20% year on year basis. So that means my earnings would also be approximately increasing in the same trend. So they can lay trust on the data which is given, right? And not just the profits. Now there are areas that go beyond profits, like for example, transparency in reporting, fairness in reporting. Give me a moment, Lalita. Give me a moment, Saswat. Everybody, I know you're too excited to write. Just be on hold. I would let you know the question, and then you will write accordingly. Let's not have this because it's giving me a quite two varied answers. So let's have only one standard way of replying back. Okay. Now, so I hope you heard me all, that now the shareholders would have the ethical concerns that go beyond profits is also transparency in reporting, honesty in reporting, okay, fairness in reporting, the corporate accountability of the organizations when they're reporting the information to their owners, the shareholders. So this is where ethical concerns, they come in picture. Okay, now let's talk about the next stakeholder. So I am giving you that employees, they are the next stakeholder. What you have to answer is, listen to my question carefully. My question is, how do you think ethics, okay, they affect employees? How do you think ethics affect employees? If the organization is not having an ethical outlook, or the organization has an ethical outlook, how does it impact employees? Please type that in the chat box quickly. One pointer will also do. Just run your brains now, okay? Open your brains, think, and type that in the chat box. For what? Hitesh, unbiased nature of management, how it is going to affect employees? Please just answer in relation to employees. Don't give me general statements. Very good, Pushpa. First point perfectly given. Fair wages and good working conditions. Okay, working conditions and the perks provided, fair salary. We have talked about fair wages. Ethically runs business that gives the states can have, can foresee their future. So for a company which is like Byju's, for a company which is like Jet Airways, okay, for a company which probably has an uncertain future, employees, they are left behind. So for the cases like Satyam and Ron that happened when the employees were taken aback, it was not known to them that the company was doing such unethical practices, and they all lost their jobs in a moment. So this is not something that employees would be wanting. Okay. Okay, very good. Who gave this point? Lalita. No, Srinu. It leads to bad culture and ruins many employees' work-life balance. Okay. Employees look into the future of the company and the security of their employment, like we have discussed. Gaurav also essentially the same point. Navneet, it builds employees' confidence as well as in the organization, building trust in management and all. Perfect. But one of the very important portions that you have missed out, everybody, Amir, everyone, we're not talking about public and environmental harm. How it is going to affect employees? No. Okay, ethically, the Pulkit reducing conflicts is not ethics. Ethics would be that same whether whether you are hiring a man or a woman, the salary is same for them. There is pay parity. Okay, so yes, social security to employees. So all these becomes, there is no discrimination based on the caste, based on the sex, based on any other areas, the geography. There's no differences. So this is what we understand as the ethical concerns for employees. Perfectly put up. Very good. Now I'll be calling out names and those people will give me answers. I hope everybody is fully attentive in the class. Next stakeholder I'm discussing is suppliers and customers. They're third party organizations, right? So I want Suriti. Can you give me some inputs? Saswat, Shweta, Prerna. Can you give me some inputs? Mukesh, Ishan, Inderpreet. Give me those inputs. Like, what do you think can be the ethical concerns for a third party like supplier or a customer? Quickly, only these students will revert. Nobody else. I'll give everybody an opportunity. Don't worry for that. Think. Please run your brains. Don't look at the book. You won't get those answers. So you have to run your brains as it is. What do you think can be ethical concerns for these? So if I'm a supplier to an organization or if I'm a customer for an organization, how ethical concerns affect me? Loyalty maintenance is not an ethical concern. No, Mukesh. Very good. Prerna has given me first valid point. Very good. Suppliers would need to know the credit worthiness of the entity. Many times we have those credit rating agencies and there is manipulation of data that takes place to improve their credit rating. Okay, so that the lenders, suppliers, they actually have a picture of that credit rating. So ethical concern is to show these data accurately and correctly so that the ratings are done in the most honest way. Okay, in the previous given that ethics help build trust and goodwill with third-party organization and ultimately gives benefits to the organizations. Yes. So it's a generalized statement that you have given. More business, more revenue. Where is ethics? Ethics is morality, your moral principles, code of ethics. No, Shweta. Ishan, supplier is confident when dealing with the business. Okay. So can we discuss the points like honesty is there is no biasness, terms and conditions given to the suppliers generally who are following the same category is the same. For example, they have to ask for quotations, so they are actually asking quotations from the required number of suppliers and not just giving it to somebody that they already know. Okay, so that related party discussions are not happening. Product content disclosure ethically will not impact customers health also trust. Very good, Saraswat, very good point. It is there. So Aditya has given that a supplier would be wanting a prompt payment for their supplies and also good terms of settlement. Okay. So basically here your ethics would be that if the company is facing liquidity issues, it should be informed to the parties affected, right? So bankruptcy should not be declared just in a moment of a night, like Enron declared it. For that matter, Jet Airways did it. Okay. So it should not happen like this. Okay. But very good points. Now the next portion, I see suppliers, customers, lenders, they almost have the same concerns. So we have covered them. Like lenders would have additional concern for their interest. Yeah, so tender process is unbiased as we discussed, but we don't have tenders in UK, we have quotations in UK. Yeah, credibility, exactly. So very well points, very well framed points by everyone. I can say the same for lenders as well, but for lenders we'll have an additional point where we talk about the rate of interest. Liquidity becomes even more challenging for lenders. Payment on within the time. If you have got bank guarantees, then those should be done on a proper basis. So we can always have the example of Kingfisher Airlines in India, which took funding from several banks, but ethically it was all done on wrong footings. So ultimately, when it was declared bankrupt, it came as a shock to our entire Indian banking system. Right? So this is where ethics play such a large and a key role. Okay, the last pointers that how government and public would have, can have ethical concerns with the organizations. So how ethics or ethical concerns, they affect the government and the public. So can I have answering from Amir? Can I have answering from Chetan, some valid points? Can I have answering from Navneet, Nikhil? Okay, Shobhit, can I have answering from you all? Quickly, Chahat. Okay, pay taxes on a regular basis. Such a simple but valid point. It is a perfect point. Tax payments we have covered. It is not just interest in taxes. That's wrong. It's going beyond that. How much do you contribute to the public? How much do you contribute to the society? It is also the social, economic welfares for the country. Yeah, trust to the public. Very good. Very good. Lalita has given a point. No, that was. Guys, tell me some points apart from taxes. Can you think of public environment? Can you think of points apart from this? Move ahead of taxes, please. Loyalty of the business, and there is also the loss of potential customers. In the future, if the public interest is lost based on the ethical behavior of the company, unethical behavior. Foreign investments, no, can be impacted. Yes, so you are correct, Saswat. Good point. People, can we have points like, for example, there is a company who's into too much of air pollution. So do you think public and environment would be affected? There is a company who's got leaks in the environment, right? So this is all ethical concerns now, because they did not get their their probably licenses renewed, so because of which they're getting these concerns. So these are what ethics. See, ethics is something beyond your financial numbers. You're going beyond your financial numbers, okay, and that is affecting the concerned people, the concerned authorities. Okay, as the government as well as public is being actively involved in green energy projects and all, fine. So too much of environment is also not we're discussing. But I think now everybody has got an overall idea about how ethics they affect, the overall stakeholders of an organization. Any questions, queries? Put that in the chat box. Right? So we have an example, very interesting example here of Reliance Industries Limited. So some key stakeholders are like, for example, we have taken here employees, management, and customers, three categories. So employees, over 230,000 of employees across the various RIL businesses, their well-being, skills, motivation, that directly impact the company's performance, right? Their involvement. So they're involved, company is going to make great results. The board of directors, senior management team, they're responsible for making strategic decisions and guiding the company's directions. Likewise, customers, RIL caters to diverse customer base across various sectors like telecom, retail, petrochemicals, and more. So their loyalty and their satisfaction is also one of the crucial areas for company success. If I talk about suppliers, so thousands of businesses, they provide RIL with the required materials, okay, and they form a vital part of the supply chain. Likewise for investors as well. Likewise for government and the local communities, right? So then, therefore, because of these different stakeholders who are contributing to RIL success, RIL also has ethical responsibility towards them. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the next one. So we are just having a few categorizations that if what is, so when the accountant is basically an individual that we talk about, so what are the different ethical dilemmas that he can have throughout his career? Number one, and the biggest ethical dilemma can be bribery. We have seen that in many movies. We have seen that in, probably heard that of in our practical lives as well. So do you think bribery is really affecting somebody's ethics? Do you think your moral principles get affected if you accept bribery from somebody? Or it is just like a regular course of business that, nowadays it's a trend that we should have bribes, only then things get work. Is it so? Is it that normalized? Is it that ethically correct? Give me a word. No, very good. Because you have questions in your exams that give you situations like this, where when you read that situation, you find it, oh, bribe is okay to give. But please remember, in whatever is the situation, bribe is never ever ethically correct. However, the serious the situation is, the complicated situation is, bribery is never an ethical way of doing business. Okay? Please keep that in your mind because you'll have questions where when you read that, you will find, oh, it is correct in this situation, but it is not. It is affecting your principle of integrity. Okay? Pressure from senior employees or clients. Absolutely correct, Larita. Absolutely correct. Pressure from senior employees or clients. Okay. Now, boys, we all face it. When you work in the organization and your boss says, boss, you have to do this work. Okay, and you say that, no, I think there are some reporting issues. He says, I'm your boss. You got to do it, or you go out of the office. So what do? You do that reporting. This is one of the major reasons. Whenever you go into the background of the companies that went into bankruptcies or that went into some fraudulent activities where they had investigations going on, when you go into that background, there was always there was pressure from the senior employees. Okay, sometimes clients pressurize you, otherwise they are your major clients and they would leave your organization's contracts. Yeah. So if obviously it is unethical, but not every action is unethical. Now, please don't go to your office on Monday and then your boss gives you a report to make and you said, boss, you're unethical. You cannot give me instructions and I won't follow you. Don't do that. When it is done for the wrong reasons, in the wrong way, it is your duty not to do that. Okay, so when a senior employer or client exerts pressure to manipulate transactions, which of financial terms, monetary terms, accounting transactions, then accountants must uphold ethical standards. But I know it is easier said than done, that concept, because when you're in that situation, you have big risks to carry. That I'll take up in the next paragraph. I know. So that's what I said. Yes. We all are actually in that situations. But then there is a limit to everything. You should not do beyond the limits. You should only do the things that you can do it morally. And of course, considering that it can affect you also, if you get caught, you would also be affected because that's wrong. See, Ishan, I would like to correct you. No company will say we are unethical. The transactions become unethical, the situations become unethical. Company is never unethical because company is a legal person, can never be ethical or unethical. It's the transactions or the activities that they do becomes unethical. Okay? So we have various companies, right? We have various companies who are generally not perceived by the public as an ethical company. Okay, and various companies, they have their trust, okay, that they are perceived by the companies even after 100 years of their incorporation. They are the companies with solid foundation and very much ethically strong, companies. So now gifts and influence, this is a very major point. So we was looking into it, right? We have movies based on it. We have suddenly some news programs where a person who is just a peon in an organization and he's driving cars like Audis, he's having jewelries, he's got investments. So what is it? Gifts and influence. So generally it is you're bound by your ethical code of ethics, okay, ethical code of conduct, that generally you should not be accepting such gifts. Okay, some gifts you can accept. Like suppose there's a client who's giving you a gift on Diwali, then you cannot say no. It's not a bribe, something. It's not unethical that you're doing, because we have that customary, trend that we exchange gifts on that occasion. Likewise, many countries, you go to US, you go to UK, we have on Thanksgiving we exchange gifts. So like this, we have these trends. So I'm going to come to that point in the pre. Don't worry. The next paragraph, I'm going to talk about that only. Okay, yeah. So I think now you know that these are the different dilemmas that an accountant can encounter. Uh, Not always, Prerna. It's not always that gifts should be trivial and inconsequential in value. You keep hearing in the news there are many organizations who give extravagant gift to their employees, but that is not something out of the way that they are doing because of the services that they've contributed. So there was a recent news also of a businessman in Surat where he gave Mercedes to the employees who retired from the organization as an award for the long service that they provided, but it was allowed. So it is not, of course, there will be tax liability and all will apply, but this was not something which is unethical. Okay, so it's not that amount, the quantum will not decide always that whether it's ethical or unethical. It's the situation, the transaction will decide. Am I clear with this? Okay, great. Now comes what Inderpreet was suggesting, ma'am, whistleblowing. So we have whistleblowing quite a lot in the organization, but then that becomes a challenge. So the person who is doing it, who's a whistleblower, it's always challenging for him. He can have a loss of his job. He can have a loss from other employers as well. He can have financial loss, emotional loss, and he can be secluded from the society. So that societal stigma is there, so people will look at him differently. Okay, but whistleblowers, if that becomes a part of the policy of the organization. Okay, so now if an organization has got that policy where ethics are crucial for that organization, because an organization is generally a company which is very ethically strong company, it can have a policy. Because if you are aware, when you sign an offer letter and when you have those terms, agreements, and different documents given by HR, which generally we don't read and we just sign and pass it to the HR, those documents, they contain these policies where they encourage whistleblowers, of course, by maintaining there is a confidentiality also. Senior management does it. Okay, but of course, it's not every organization will do it, and you have to be very conscious when you're or careful when you're doing that whistleblowing, because the management should support it. Okay, so then it's a good point. Then you're awarded also for the same, and organization basically encourages whistleblowers so that anything which is unethical, which is not correct, which is dishonest, which is going on in the organization, management becomes aware of the same. Okay, so then yes, then we have these angles of financial and emotional consequences. We can have legal implications as well. Companies can always sue the individual because he's sharing the data which is otherwise confidential, right? So then it becomes quite a challenging thing for the whistleblowers. So that needs to be considered when we are going for the to be a whistleblower for the organization. If you are aware, I'm just giving you just a step extra. Generally, the governments also, along with the Companies Act, they have a Whistleblower Protection Act also. In India also we have, okay, and in UK also we have. So they generally protects, but those are not very well created laws, because you don't have everyday whistleblowers, right? So therefore, the company's policies should support the individuals. Like for example, I'll tell you, um, there were few whistleblowers who became ultimately very famous. Like, for example, Smedley Butler, he was a whistleblower who, unearthed the fraudulent activities that were taking place in United States Marine Corporations. So we have different whistleblowers that are there. And probably this is the reason why you have WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks is created because of these whistleblowers only. Okay. Okay, so now a successful whistleblowing policy for an organization must be well implemented. Okay, avoiding a superficial tick box approach. Tick box approach means basically we're just doing it for the purpose, for the needful. I would let you know. In fact, Just give me time, I'll let you know. In fact, I'll share that article in the group. That will be better. I'll share that article. Yeah, I will share that article. It was a very famous case. Okay. I will keep on sharing those relevant material. I'll share that article. Please go through it. Is one of the very famous persons. In fact, for a long time, that Butler case, we would always call it as a Butler case, and this is one of the reasons why we had the whistleblower policies also created for the organizations and for the government as well. Yeah, I would do that. I would do that after the session. When I'm sharing the notes, I will be sharing it. Okay, so now avoiding a superficial tick box approach means what? You're just doing it for the sake of it. Companies should have policies which are true and which are basically that shows the seriousness of the company. It is not just for the sake of it. Got it? They should be well maintained, regularly updated, and of course, keeping in tune with the changing times that is taking place in the economy, in the country. So, like that. Okay, and well supported with tone from the top. That is, the management should also support it. Of course, only then any policy will become a successful policy. Okay. Any concerns anybody has till this point? Then I'll take up the next portions. Just type it in the chat box and just allow me a moment. I'll be there. Okay, people. Okay, so now let's proceed further and I will be giving you a break at 12. So we still have more time for that. Okay, now, before we go into the questions, let's have one more point to discuss, that is shareholders' wealth. Okay, now here we can talk about ethically. See, ethically or generally, an organization's motive is to maximize the shareholders' wealth. And we have been reading that, whenever we were doing accounting and all, we know that the company's major aim is to maximize the shareholders' wealth. But apart from this, do you hear that many companies have very high employee turnover ratios? That the employees leave very frequently, and the major examples that even where I have worked also is your big fours. Big fours generally they are a go-to company for all the wannabe ACCAs and the professionals, but at the same time, these are the companies with having very high employee turnovers. Okay, and one of the reasons is, of course, their work-life balance and all. But then there are some companies in where employees' turnover is very high because the working condition is not good. Okay, because they are not, the employees are not given freedom of their work. So these ethical concerns, they go beyond the normal CTC or the salary ranges, right? So these are also one of the various factors that employees consider before taking up an employment opportunity. Okay, we read the background of the organization to understand it. Okay, so now here comes a very important point also, that balancing financial interest with ethical considerations, they give a more sustainable business outlook, right? So I think now you are clear with this picture in your mind. So when you're writing your answers in your exams, see, this is the base ethical concepts that you have to keep in your mind. Of course, everything now we are going to be reading or we are going to be solving would be situation specific or category specific, like related parties. Okay, so all these will be doing category specific issues. Base issue or the general concept we have discussed is a general concept. Okay, we're just going to add on to it. That's all. Okay, let's have a few questions. Now, come on, people. Everybody, I want your eyes on my screen. First question, and nobody will look at their books. It's a request, kind request. In the live session, keep your books off. When I need it, I'll tell you to open them. Okay? But right now, please keep your books closed mode in today's lecture, at least. Should a company manufacture and sell recreational drugs to the general public? Because as you know, generally barring the few countries, it is not legal. Okay, it is not legal to sell recreational drugs to the public as generally. So do you think if a company is manufacturing and selling these drugs, it is ethically correct? Or give your viewpoints on it. Give your viewpoints. Okay, don't give me yes and no. Just give me 1 or 2 lines for your viewpoint, quickly. I know it's requiring a bit of typing, but then please be used to it. Okay, so interesting answer by Pulkit. He said, yes, it's good. It's correct if the government is allowing. Okay. Lalita is going even more technical and she's saying that if it is B2B, it is good. If it is B2C, it is not good. And we are talking about general public that goes in B2C criteria. Okay. So let's stick to the question, Lalita. Our answering should be for the question that has been asked. If it is banned, then unethical. So according to you, Nikhil, if it is not banned, then it is ethical to sell drugs. No, it is not. It should not be over-the-counter drugs, OTC. However, it should be only sold if doctor prescribes. Doctor will never prescribe recreational drugs. You know what are recreational drugs? Recreational drug is drugs for fun. People wants to get high for fun. So that is called recreation. It's not, no, that's okay. No need to be sorry. So if it is legally not banned, then yes. If it is allowed in Netherlands, Mexico, let's not talk about places. Yes, there are various places where they're allowed. It makes people addictive. Yes. So Gaurav, finally you have given me an answer that I'm looking for. All of you, those who are saying that if it is not legally enforceable, okay, then it's good to sell. That means you are saying that if drugs are being sold for fun to a 10-year-old kid, to a 12-year-old kid, to an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, 24-year-old, just imagine the society that we'll be living in. Everybody around us would be high, would be having drugs. Is it okay, even if the age criteria is there in the Preet? Imagine in your office, how most of the people working there are having drugs because it is, allowed in that country. Is it ethically correct? We're not talking about legality here. We're talking about ethical issues. Is it ethically correct? No. There is a difference between alcohols and drugs. Okay? Drugs are at much higher levels than alcohol. The people who are in that state can do terrible things than the person who's just simply using alcohol for fun purposes. So ethically, if I talk about ethically, the company should not be going into this. Okay, let's discuss it. So most people would consider this to be abhorrent, even though such an activity would be very profitable. Even if the drugs are legal in a regulated industry, the cost to society and the risk to individuals are likely to be considered unacceptable. There is always, and however, you can give me one argument which none of you gave me, that, if you make it legally acceptable, like Inderpreet mentioned a small point that just like alcohol is, allowed to be sold, and we have those shops everywhere. So now people don't hide and, buy alcohol. So there are states, like in India, we have states where alcohol is banned, and there you have high sales of alcohol. Why? Because it is banned. So if a country legalizes it, then probably the use of it may not be as high as it is when it is banned. But then overall, drugs affect the countries or the generations more harder than simply these alcohols and all will do. So the point is, when you're checking into your profitability, you have to look into the cost to the society as well, cost to the people, cost to the generation, the overall outlook of the people, cost of, the growth of the economy. So if I give you an example of a country like Mexico, when comes Mexico, there's another name that comes as drugs. You don't hear good things about Mexico as you hear these negative points, right? So these are, the outlook, the face of that. Of course, I was coming to. I did not say his name, but yes. Okay. Now coming back to the next questions. I hope now you're clear. Give me the next question answer. Should a company buy shares in a tobacco company as an investment? And very interesting question. Think carefully and then answer. Not no hints from my side. Think carefully and answer, but quickly. And come on, I don't want only few people to answer. Please, everybody answer. I hope the session is not going that boring that you guys are not answering. Is it? I'm just asking as a concern. Okay, I'll repeat the question. I'm repeating the second question. Should a company buy shares in a tobacco company as an investment? Please answer everything from ethics point of view. Okay. Inderpreet has said that yes, have government allowed to that company to raise. But if I'm not investing, it doesn't mean everybody will not invest. A perfect point. I will elaborate that point, Gaurav. Investment in a company is not unethical. Okay. No, it is not ethical. It will promote the tobacco in society. Don't we have tobacco already? Cigarettes? And the other tobacco products. Investors might not want to adversely affect their portfolio. Very good point. So, Riti, a very good point. No, as to it would add to promotion of these kind of projects being sold in the market. They're already sold. Chad. Shrinu, primary market, not for encouraging secondary market. No. The company can buy the shares of the tobacco company as it is not directly involved. Yes, you gave me the example. Yes, company can buy shares. Promoting or investing in tobacco is wrong if you apply the same principle as drugs. That's why I said that please think carefully and then answer. Not every time we'll follow a generalized principle. Okay. Pulkit, coming to a point, how big do you think is the tobacco industry? Do you find actresses also promoting the ads of tobacco, whether it's mouth fresheners, whether it's cigarettes or something like that? Do you find them? So even in a country like India, which is supposedly a conservative country, we have that. You don't find Pulkit? I'll give you that ad jingle in your group. We have different, Bollywood stars promoting that. In fact, in Hollywood, in various international countries also, it is taking place. Yes. So the point is, out of these categories, do you find alcohol ads as frequent as tobacco ads? Quickly revert. I find that every third ad that I watch is a tobacco ad. Third or fourth, for that matter, not beyond that. So when you say in these categories, whether it's a tobacco, whether it's, whether it's your drugs, whether it's alcohol, tobacco is the biggest player. When I say player means there are companies are investing actively in this field. Yes, ethically you may not be correct, but it is not that nobody is going into that field. This is why tobacco is legally allowed to be sold in majority of the countries, because one of the major reasons is it doesn't affect the health of the person as deadly as drug. I know the effects of tobacco are there, but percentage wise it is there, and it gives more taxes to the government. Yeah, it may, right? It may. So it is one of the reasons why governments don't stop everything on ethical grounds, because they want money also to run the business, right? So yes, you have very high investments in tobacco. Ethically, we can say that it is not good for the society, because of the diseases and smoking and everything, it is going to affect lungs, blah blah blah. So it is not ethically not always correct. But then tobacco industry is one of the biggest industries, which involves a lot of people as their, so there is a lot of employment opportunities in tobacco industry, lot of money circulating in tobacco industry. So if it, I want to convey that even if you are not investing, like Gaurav pointed, there is somebody else who's investing into it. Okay, so tobacco industry is always an industry where investment opportunities are always there. Okay, and investment and ethics do have a relation. One of you pointed out that it doesn't have a relation. It is, because when I'm investing into a company, I'm giving them money to do more production, right? So yes, there ethically you may step back, but industry will not stop. The question is, industry will not stop, because it is an ever-growing industry from many years. It's not a new industry suddenly has come up. Am I clear? And since it is giving employment opportunities, so therefore, there are always investors for this guy. So if you observe, we gave this answer from ethics point of view, but at the same time, we did not give a conclusive answer that yes, ethically we should not do investments. We discussed that we may not do investments, but there can always be some other player. Okay, there can always be more employment opportunities here. So like Interpreet gave me the example of ITC, right? ITC is a company that everybody generally looks for, when you've got an opportunity, would like to work with that company. And one of the major product categories that it has is tobacco, right? So then also it's thriving. So meaning to say, not uh, every business opportunity will have negative ethical points only. Exactly. So like Gaurav said, so if I have this kind of question in the exam, I will not keep it completely conclusive. I'll keep it open-ended, like we've discussed. And one point I'll discuss about ethical issues. At the same point, I'll discuss about the investment opportunities also. So then we can always write this as a point that investment opportunities are always going to be there in this industry. However, if a person is not able to accept the ethical grounds, then he can refrain from doing the investment. Okay, we can always conclude like this. In SBR questions, in these especially P-level questions, it is not always needed for you to give a final conclusion. You can always keep it open-ended. Unless question wants you to specifically say, give that final conclusion. Here, the question never asked you, right? The question just asked for a viewpoint. Give a viewpoint. It can be open-ended. Okay, next. Should an energy company, it's a very interesting question. Should an energy company carry out hydraulic fracking in search of fossil fuels? I'm just giving you an idea in case we're not aware of what is hydraulic fracking. Hydraulic fracking is basically when you make, you create what do you call cracks. You create those fractures, cracks in the rocks, because when you create it, then the machines go inside and they can scan the rocks and the these items to see if there's any fossil fuel in there, because the fossil fuels are generally hidden in those rocks. So if we do hydraulic fracking, that is not natural process. Naturally the rock is not broken into pieces. You are doing it by your intervention. So if a company wants to carry out hydraulic fracking in search for fossil fuels, Should the company carry out that? Yes or no? Support it with your reason. Okay, support it with a reason. Anybody? Gaurav, I really like the answering that you do. Very good. Simple, but to the point. Very good, Navneet. Very good point. Come on, everyone. Don't be so tired. Type in your answers. I'm giving you a break in some time. I'm reading Chahat's answer. How can offer a better alternative? Very good, Aditya. Uh, Not completely Shobhit. Okay. Navneet, Pulkit. But then, Pulkit, what you said is then we should not cut trees and build houses. We are not making earth barren of trees, right? We are cutting trees up to a certain limit. We have those environmental protection laws. So here, the answering, as many of you have pointed out, is it should be to a certain limit, not beyond that. Otherwise, all the natural resources will be over. Okay, so we have to limit ourselves. Very good, Suriti. Regulated manner is needed. Yes. So let's not talk about the more deeper issues, but yes, should an energy company carry out hydraulic fracking? Environmentalists are generally against the drilling procedures, okay, because it possesses a risk to the environment. However, local community is also going to oppose it, where the people are generally living, because it is going to affect their, all the kind of flora and fauna as well as the living beings who are there. But okay, but shareholders would like to support it. So then we can go for that process based upon the permissions that you receive from the government, because these are natural resources, they're non-renewable resources. So based on the permission of the government, we can go into this process, but up to a certain limit, so that it doesn't affect the future generations. It doesn't affect the resources which are going to be available for future generations and the local communities and others. If you follow news, there are various places where people are going for the mountain or the hill cuttings, right, in order to create roads over there, societies over there, and the roads which trespass a jungle, so they want to cut that area of the jungle. So these concerns are always there, right? But not every time they're able to go ahead with it, because they don't get clearance from the government. So only when you get clearance from the government up to a certain limit, you can carry on with that act. So this is exactly what we're discussing here. I hope this is absolutely clear. Okay. Just a minute. Okay, now let's talk about the next topic, compliance with accounting standards. It's your core duty as an accountant rather than ethical or moral duty. It is a professional duty that you have to ensure that all the accounting standards relevant, whichever is applicable, whether it is like IAS 16, whether it is IFRS 15, or whichever accounting standard is being applicable to that situation, to that transaction, you are applying them in the most proper manner. Okay, all the methodologies suggested in that relevant IAS or IFRS is followed. Because why? It's ultimately the responsibility of the preparers of the financial statement. It is the directors, the company's management, to ensure that the financial statement is prepared in the most ethical and the correct way, and when before it is presented to the different stakeholders. So it is that professional ethical judgment which is required here. Okay, so that there is no misrepresentation and misinterpretation, which is misleading the users. So I think most of you are aware of that scandal that took place, Enron scandal. Uh, okay, but I think it is one of the core reasons why we have the different anti-fraudulent rules. You know, we had the SOX procedure, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, why it came into picture. So it is one of the core reasons why those acts came in place, why we had such rules and regulations came in place. Because Enron was one of the biggest scandals that shook the entire this financial community. So here the fraudulent activities that happened between 1998 and 2001. These were the key management personnel who were involved here. Okay, so what they created some off balance sheet entities. That means those entities that were there, subsidiaries were there, but the results of those subsidiaries just a moment. Just a moment. Okay. Okay, so they created this. So this is how they did the fraudulent activities. When they consolidated the books, they did not consolidate all the subsidiaries. They did just, a selected consolidation so that only profitable entities were consolidated. And of course, that led to misrepresentation of the data. Okay, another fraud that they entered into was mark-to-mark accounting. What is a normal basis that we generally follow? Historical basis of accounting, okay? Or we do a revaluation, but based on the principle of IAS 16. But what they did was they revalued the assets on the estimated future selling prices that were quite unrealistic, were very high, due to which balance sheets, P&Ls, everything were inflated. Then there were false accounting entries that were entered. So everything was false, was wrongly presented, unethical, dishonest, everything was there. What was the consequence? People lost jobs overnight. Okay, people lost their jobs. Just see the quantum. As per the reports that were published later on by many journalists and many newspaper articles, approximate 26,000 employees, they lost their job overnight. Nobody knew about this happening. Filed for bankruptcy, and it was the largest corporate bankruptcy in US history at the time. There were investor losses, of course, that comes when your shares plug, your investors lose. Regulations then came into place. As I told you, SOX laws, okay, that is one of the most very prominent laws whenever you do on your auditing rules, your internal controls, internal audits, everywhere, then you have to follow these SOX rules. So they came into place. because they are basically rules confirming the corporate governance and accounting standards. And of course, there were criminal charges that were laid. So now, no, there are a few situations I'm discussing here that can be as a part of your question also, where you have to identify that the fraudulent activity has taken place. So your question will never say that there is a fraudulent activity done by Mr. A in the financial statements. You have to identify it. This is where your ethics judgment would come in place. You have to understand where there is a breach happening, where there is a fraudulent activity happening, and you have to identify and accordingly give recommendations for correction, suggest safeguarding, and all those actions. Okay, that we'll see in a full-fledged question. Like revenue overstatement, okay, by creating the falsifying transactions, fictitious sales invoices. Okay, expense understatement, assets overstatement, just like we discussed for Enron case. Okay, and overstatement can also be that when you have bad debts, okay, but you're not removing the debt from the book. So your debtors are still there. The investors would know, okay, that there is a current assets of 10 million. So they would know that, okay, this is a short-term liquidity guarantee. But actually it is not 10 million, it is only 2 million. 8 million is bankrupt. 8 million is bad debt. So just see the level of fraud that can take place. Okay, then liability understatement, same. Misapplication of accounting rules, that is, you have accounting standards in place and they are not correctly applied, they're misapplied. And this is why we have stringent auditing rules also in place. Omission or misrepresentation of information, again continuing to what we started for Enroll earlier. Okay, then insider trading, insider dealing is also one of the key areas. In fact, everywhere in the world, it's a punishable in offense with very high amount. So we had that ICICI bank case, right? Now currently we have that SEBI chief case. In India also, in worldwide also, we have cases where insider trading actually has become a questionable point. So when you buy shares on the recommendation of an employee, and of course it comes out that's insider trading, because employees supposedly not to disclose confidential information to anybody. Okay, anybody. In fact, himself also cannot indulge into that trade. Yeah, CCD, true to that fact. Satyam, we'll talk about Satyam case also in a way. Okay, now let's talk about manipulations. So we do have manipulations going on. Okay, manipulations in the accounting can take place. How manipulations can take place? See, what happens sometimes we want to show an EPS which is reduced because we don't want to give away quite a high amount to the shareholders. We want to show the returns to be reduced overall. We want to show the overall debt to be reduced. So then instead of showing my assets at historical cost, I would show them at the revalued amount. So what would happen? When you have increased the value of assets, when you have revalued them upwards, because our accounting rules support that. So I'm not doing something which is illegal. Okay, but legally I'm correct. My accounting will support to do a revaluation at higher value if the market value has gone up. I'm doing that. But why the purpose of the accountant, why he wants to do that upward revaluation is because that would give higher amount as depreciation. Higher amount of depreciation means returns will be reduced. So overall ROCE, EPS, and the other margins will get reduced. Because you have higher value of assets, your own assets, okay, then your gearing will be reduced because it will probably show lower debt and higher amount of your own funds, that is shareholders' equity. So shareholders' equity will increase, right? So so what do you think the overall impact? Overall returns went down. So this is kind of, you can say, you are manipulating with the record, with the accounting rules, accounting standards. Okay, many times people call it as a planning term, but it is more than planning, it is manipulation. Because the purpose of doing it is not to do a fair presentation of balance sheet or the most accurate presentation, which is the need of the standard, but the purpose of doing it is so that we have, you know, positive figures, lower returns to be distributed to the shareholder. Okay, so this is known as manipulations, and they're very hard to catch. Only when you do an in-depth proper auditing, internal controls auditing, okay, your internal audits, only then it is able, it can be caught. Otherwise, these financial statements, manipulations are quite difficult to catch. Okay, so the impact of accounting policies is crucial when accounting standards, they offer a choice, because most of the standards offer judgment is required. So we just have few a distinction we have created. Like for example, I talk about IS2 inventories. We have a choice, right? We can follow the cost formula to measure inventory. This is the choice that can be made, or we can follow the deemed cost methods, right? Like the FIFO method and all to measure the inventory. IS 16 property, plant and equipment, you have to apply your judgment. Which method of depreciation would you like to apply? Okay, because here it's more than a choice, it's more of a judgment that you have to apply. You have to see the number of years that the property, plant and equipment would be serving the organization. So on the basis of which you decide. So now this judgment is very important, because many depreciation methods, they give you more depreciation early on, less depreciation later on. So depending upon the level of profits that we are estimating, we can manipulate it, right? We can manipulate the method of depreciation. Also, we can change the method of depreciation also, right? Retrospectively. So we can do that later on. Now, intangible assets. So we refer to the intangible assets, and then becomes a challenge, because determining the life of intangible assets, it is a challenge. Then investment property, just like we have the property, plant and equipment. For buildings, we have this investment property. And then we have a choice that we can follow revaluation model, or that is fair value model, or the cost model. Just like we have for the property, plant and equipment. Then business combinations, again, I will be discussing these standards after first chapter. Okay, that is when we complete this chapter. After that, I'll take a few standards. So just like that, we have for the assets, non-current assets held for sale and financial instruments. So when we go into the relevant standard, you will be able to understand it in a better way. So the point is, whatever is a choice being given to the accountants, the purpose of presenting the financial statements in a particular way should be to give better understandability or better presentation to the users of the financial statements, rather than manipulating with the financial statements in order to show the returns as the company desires. Okay, this approach should be changed. Okay, any questions and queries till this point? Because then I'll take Tesco scandal. We'll discuss it. I do hope that everybody is able to understand whatever we are discussing in the class, and it's not going too high for you. Okay. Okay, Gaurav is saying, ma'am, I need a break. Okay, let's have a break. Can we have a break after just understanding this Tesco scandal just once? It's just an example. After that, because then we'll have a portion completed. Then before taking the next topic, I'll give you a break. I know starting after so long becomes challenging. Okay, now let's talk about Tesco. I hope you all have heard of this company, UK-based company. We will go to the relevant standard, Hitesh, then I'll let you know all the pointers. Okay, because if I talk about it right now, I'll be giving you half information. When we'll be taking the standard soon, so then it's better for me to discuss it with you. Okay, let's not have half information. Okay, people, you've not heard, come on, Get into the world. When you are in the financial world, you should be knowing about not just the current affairs, but the incidents that have taken place in the past. It is one of the biggest fraudulent activities that took place with a British company. Okay, one of the biggest, I think. Most were happening till Tesco. Generally, scandals were more there in US. And as it is, if you compare countries wise, US has got more scandals than any other country in the world. Okay, so here the fraudulent activities that took place primarily in 2014. So what was the fraud? That there was early recognition of income. Okay. What was early recognition of income? That suppose you have a sale made tomorrow, but you have recognized it today. Yeah, it is a supermarket in UK. I would be giving concise notes for this chapter. Okay. But if not today, I'll be sharing it tomorrow. Okay, I will be giving the notes. Be rest assured for the same. But my notes, let me just tell you people, my notes would not be the typical reading notes. I don't give notes like that where you have PPTs and you're just reading it. I find it boring myself. So I don't give you notes like that. In Excel, I give notes, the pointers, which I find that it is more relevant for you, especially when you're revising that chapter. So I will give you notes like that. I hope it is okay for all. I won't give you stories in PPTs. Yes, perfectly written by Lalita. The revenue was recognized even without the title or the rights were passed to the buyer. So practically, I don't know how many of you have seen the cases or not, but even I've seen it practically when there used to be month ends or the year ends, especially month ends, and you have quarterly targets to be met. There was some cases where people would resort to the things that the trucks are there still in the factory, still they would show it as a sale transaction. I know everybody will, I know it would happen. But when it's a small scale happening, it's just a matter of 1 or 2 days and it is, just getting adjusted in the year, then it doesn't matter. Here, the scale of fraud was too large. There were incomes that were belonging to the next year were booked in the current year. Okay. So, and the quantum of income was too big. So, and basically, it also happened the first half and the second half of the year. Being a listed company, it was publishing its reports quarterly. So there, the frauds were identified. I know. Okay, frauds were identified. There were higher rebates taken, higher discounts were shown as taken from suppliers. And why? Just like I pointed out, there was a pressure to meet targets. So I know we all have encountered it, especially in our monthly targets. Okay, but the scale and the quantum is when it is within the limits, then it's never a big fraud. Any irregularity will only become a fraud when the quantum becomes huge and it's more of a regular transaction. So what was the consequences? Of course, there was overstatement of profits. When the fraud's results came out, shares price dropped, investors lost their money, and ultimately the company had to pay fines, settlements. There were executives which were prosecuted, but then later they were bailed out. Okay, and Tesco is still there. Of course, then the more stringent policies were made for the company. Okay, more stringent policies were made by the company so that these issues don't take place again in the future. But yes, you can see all these practical cases that ethical issues have taken place with very big names also. So it is therefore the need of the day with the evolving market, with the evolving, a digital age that we are in. These are only increasing. Okay. Anyways, let's have a break. When I say break, I don't want anybody to leave the meeting because as it is, you're on videos off and audios off. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to be on audios and videos off for another 10 minutes. So 10, 12 minutes. It's 12:03 and I'm very particular and punctual about the time. So I want everybody to be behaving in the same way only. Okay. So it's 12:03, 12:15. We'll resume again. Just have a relaxful 10, 12 minutes break and then we'll have a session till 2. Okay, be there, everyone. Okay, let's have a break till 12:50. Okay, everyone, can we begin? Everybody's there? Good. Thanks. Okay, a quick question. There are two terms that we use. A company following or creating policies and procedures and ensuring that the companies follow a rule-based or compliance-based approach. And the other way of, it is the outlook of management, how they're carrying on with their business activities. And the other way is following a integrity-based approach. US GAAP generally recommends principle or rule-based approach, but IFRS generally recommends integrity-based approach. Can you, the question comes in, what is the difference between the two? What is the difference between these two approaches? So if we can just discuss about it, principle-based or rule-based approach means that you're walking on the road and you know you have to walk on the left side. You cannot walk on the right side. Okay, you have to strictly follow that rule, that compliances, the legal rules. So there are charters made, the company has a rule book, and you have to abide by that rule book strictly. The management is really not looking into their management decisions, estimates, and the other things. Second way, integrity-based approach. Okay, now the next is integrity-based approach. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, the next concept comes in integrity-based approach. Okay, what is integrity-based approach? Integrity-based approach means you're following, again, there are rules, regulations given. For example, we know that we have to walk on the left side of the road. Okay, but what happens if you see somebody who's about to fall on the road on the right side? You can directly go, run fast and try to save that person. So here, even though you're following the rule book, your integrity tells you that, you have to be there on the right side to save that person. Integrity-based approach of management recommends that it is not always that you have to follow the rule book as it is. You can apply your management skills. Okay, you can we can have the alignment of organizations behaviors with that of the managers. Okay, the management is promoting ethical issues, ethical values, and um so all these features, they become a part of decision making when we are having the integrity based approach. Of course, on the overall, on the face of it, it looks like integrity based approach is more of a better way. But then please understand, with people, every person will have a different way of outlook and looking at things. So integrity based approach sometimes make the things more more complicated unless we have clear guidelines from the management to be followed, to be followed or to be considered when we are looking into judgments. But then judgments is very subjective matter. So why a rule-based system is more followed in organizations? Because we all work and we see that, and organizations generally follow more of a rule-based approach. The reason being, then we have synchronizations, then we have systematic approach, uniformity that gives the management a better way to govern the overall organization, which becomes challenging in integrity-based management approach. However, in order to ensure that integrity based management approaches also, they are acting as a rule based approach and at the same time taking care of ethical issues, we have those audit committees, ethics committees. Okay, audits committees, extension is ethics committee. Okay, so we have these ethics committees, and with the ethics committees, chairman, directors, members all elected, and to ensure that we have within the organization a culture which is ethical, which is based on the ethical principles is there within the organization. So this mix is known as integrity based approach. Am I clear with this? So integrity based approach not only requires legal compliances but also demands that management assumes responsibility for the ethical conduct of the company and its personnel. Clear? Are we clear with this? Any issues in understanding what is integrity based approach and what is rule based approach or the compliance based approach? Okay, let's move forward and just have a brief understanding. These code of ethics, you don't have to learn them, you don't have to know them. Just a procedure is what we are understanding here. So we have the International Ethics Board, Ethics Standards Board for accountants in place, which is, yeah, rule-based approach is rigid. Okay, rule-based approaches is rigid. So I told you the reason why they are rigid, so that we have uniformity and we have a system in place. And we find that, right, in government organizations, in our own companies. I think all of you, whenever there's a concern and you raise it to escalate it to the particular department, there's a proper procedure with which it is followed. But for some cases, which is, something which requires immediate attention, we have the integrity principles also coming in, where out of the way decisions are made. So that is generally the way that the organizations work. Okay. Am I clear, Gaurav? Okay, now let's go to this IASB. So you can say this is the apex authority for ethics. All over the world, we have this central committee, which is International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants, which is there, and it is an independent body. Okay, now within this is a branch, we can say, for ACCA. So these are the member bodies like ACCA, CA, the CP, and all these member bodies are there, where they take down the ethics, or they pick up ethics rules from the IESAB and they apply it to their own profession. So like ACC also has its own code of ethics. So which is the base of it is picked up from that board, and then all the relevant, any changes which they need, any additional features that they want to add in, and are then made to the respective professional bodies. Okay, so we prepare detailed ethical requirements and we implement and enforce these requirements among these professional bodies. So the codes or the standards which are given by IASB, they act as a base. Okay, it is acting as a model based on which the other bodies, the members, organizations, they update or they edit their own ethical rules and standards. Like I said, this is the reason, Hitesh, because US GAAP always supports rule-based approach. So if the company is a US-based MNC, it is bound by rule-based approach only, right? And the only purpose is it makes the things more simpler because you don't have your decision making in place. You know, after 1, 2 will come, after 2, 3 will come, 3 after 3, 4 will come. So you're following the same steps. Okay, but sometimes matters are much more than the simply rules application. So then it becomes a challenge when you are in a rule-based entity or the rule-based environment. So this is the reason why there is no audit applicability. This is the reason, right? Because compulsory US GAAP is telling you to follow rule-based only. So when you're following the rules, audit only comes in picture to check if the rules are followed or not, because you have decision making, so you have subjective matters in place. But if I say that there is no scope for subjective matters, after 1, 2 will come, only when there is no 2, then only 3 will come. So like this. So when you know the sequence, so there is no need for audit because things are in the automative mode, you know. So therefore, since there is no involvement of manual decision making, so it doesn't become such a challenge. Okay, now let's go further. Okay, now let's go to the code. So the International Code of Ethics for Accountants is available, but if you are interested, you can go for it. But for our syllabus, we're not required to know in detail of it. Just an overview that it is divided into 4 sections. That is, you have to make a compliance with the code. Okay, the fundamental principles that I'm just going to take care in the next topic. Integrity, objectivity, professional competence, and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior, which are the same 5 fundamental principles applicable for ACCAs as well that we have to follow in our ethics mode. Okay, so the same fundamental principles we are following. I'll give you with examples. What are these? Okay, so let's talk about first these 5 fundamental principles. That means compliance with the code and compliance with fundamental principles is essential to ensure that the company is ethically strong company. Okay, now what are those fundamental principles? Number 1, integrity. Integrity simply means being honest. Boss, be honest. Whatever professional relationships we are having, we are maintaining, professional disclosures we are doing, professional reports that we are preparing, the accountant should be honest and straightforward. He should not try to make fancy stories. He should not be dishonest. And this is a very big trait, that is generally a very challenging trait in the business world that we find. But anyways, the accountant should be honest. This is very important trait that we have. Okay, next is objectivity. Okay, objectivity is unbiased approach. Okay, the accountant should make an objective judgment, objective decision. It means there should not be any conflict of interest. There should not be any undue influence. What does it mean? For example, I can give you an example. That suppose, now we were discussing about revenue, right? So now suppose there is a pressure on you, on the accountant from the management, that look, even if the sales transactions are not completed today, but you have to book the sale revenue today as it is the last day of the financial year. So now you having the undue influence, undue pressure coming from the seniors that you have to have a biased approach. dishonest approach. So here, both integrity and objectivity are getting breached. These principles are getting breached. Okay. Third, professional competence and due care. Of course, professional competence and due care basically means that you're having the required knowledge which is needed. Okay, you are having the, why do sometimes, many times, question the job requirements when you look into, hardly some of the job requirements at senior levels, they would say that we are looking for a simple graduate person. Most of them require people with professional qualification. Why? Because they're already trained and well versed with the basic requirements that they need before they take up this position, like the standards, like the compliances, the legal requirements, the legislations. They're already well versed with it. So this is a basic requirement for your profession, that you are not mugging up, you are understanding them, you would know how to apply them. So this is a basic requirement that you should be meeting. Next, confidentiality, very important. Okay. Now suppose I have a friend. Okay. Suppose I have a friend. Now that friend is incidentally my client as well. Okay, because he's my friend. I'm sharing with him some very vital informations about the tender, about the tentative projects, but which is wrong. The confidentiality principle again is a core principle and the breach is not acceptable. Next, professional behavior. Again, you're a professional, your competence should be professional, and your approach should be professional. Behavior. That means we should not be looking into our own self-interest. We should be looking into organization's interest, public interest before we take up any assignment, before we do any transaction, and before we enter into any kind of fraudulent activity. For all the scandals that we have discussed so far, or the other scandals that we may be discussing, it not only affected the company, the stakeholders, but the public also at a large. And for these many years, we're still discussing those cases. So just look at the importance of, the company's position for the public as a whole. Therefore, it is a responsibility for the professional also to carry that, responsibility on his shoulders, to be professional in his approach and all the dealings that he's doing. Because in any case, okay, or in, I'll say, no case, the professional should bring any discredit to the profession. This is the core format. Okay. Now, any questions here? Please put that in the chat box and then I'll take up the next sponsor. Okay, so now first point, we need compliance with the code. Now ACCA being a member organization, it has its own set of code of ethics and you have a module where you study it. Next, fundamental principles we've discussed. Next, the conceptual framework. Conceptual framework is, what? Now, in a very simple way, I'll make you understand it. We have IFRS, we have IAS for majorly everything. But there are few areas still in accounting or in reporting for which there is no specific standard applicable. Okay. There are areas, the most common being cryptocurrencies. Now there's an evolving standard, but still not finalized. So cryptocurrencies is that area which is still evolving, right? We don't have any specific standards. So for various companies that are now dealing in cryptocurrencies, I think the one name that I really can relate to cryptocurrencies is Elon Musk, right? So Tesla. So now we have dealings in cryptocurrencies a lot. But is there any specific standard? Not as such. But of course, we'll have it in now. It's almost coming up. So now, when there's an absence of standards, any specific standard, but then also accountants need a basis, a generalized rule that they can apply on those cases. That is known as conceptual framework. Conceptual framework gives you an overall outlook, okay, the base rules, the general rules that can be applied in all situations, especially for those where you don't have a specific standard to give you an outlook for the particular situation. Okay, for those cases, especially we do not have a particular or specific standard, we take help of conceptual framework. Okay, now I'm going to take conceptual framework in a bit detail. Okay, in a bit detail means we're going to discuss about what are the different threads that can be there to a conceptual framework. So first, let me make you understand again this conceptual framework. Conceptual framework provides guidance and examples to help members identify, evaluate, and respond to these threats. The threats to comply with the standards. Okay, the threats to comply with the standards. The threats to comply with the fundamental principles. Emphasizing thoughtful consideration over rigid rule following, as we have discussed in the integrity based approach. Okay, so instead of rigid rule following, we do a thoughtful consideration. Okay, so now what are the threats? What can be the threats in complying with the fundamental principle? What can be the threats in applying the standards? Can you think of any threats? One threat I can discuss is self-interest threat, right? What is self-interest threat? I want myself to grow, whether organization is growing or not doesn't matter. So this is the reason why fraudulent activities takes place. So this is the biggest threat to the conceptual framework, right? It is one of the biggest threats. That is, you are thinking of your own progress and not organization's progress. So there is always a risk that fundamental principles will be compromised, whether it's integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, they will be compromised. Next is self-review threat. Can anybody tell me what is a self-review threat? Just think. It's a very interesting threat. Anybody? Even as CAs in India, we encountered it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Checking one's own work that you're not doing. No maker and checker. A review of accounts prepared by accountant himself, checking his own work. Perfect, perfect. Very good. You're not able to detect your own mistakes. Plus, the work, there is some work almost similar to it that you've done in the past. And you're copy pasting the same work in the current scenario. However, you're not checking whether it is copy pasted in the correct way or not, or it should be done in the same way or not. So you are not having any third party to review your work. You are reviewing your work yourself. It is as if you are the preparer of financial statements and you are the auditor of financial statements. It is as if that. Okay, this is self-review threat. It's a major threat. It's a major threat because you will always have your self-interest in it. Okay, it's always that you will not be able to detect your own mistakes. So it's always advisable to have a third party to detect it. Therefore, we need auditors who are third party. Okay, next. Okay, let's discuss one of the very interesting threats, which is advocacy threat. Can anybody tell me how advocacy is a threat to compliance conceptual framework? And does anybody know what is advocacy threat? Base question. Anybody knows what is advocacy threat? Absolutely. It's not promoting your own organization always. Yet say Prerna, please share it. Absolutely correct. Very good. Who gave me this point? Chahat, very good. Absolutely correct in the pre. Now your point is a full-fledged point. Promoting the client's organization. So what do we mean by promoting the client's organization, Lalita? Can you elaborate? Prerna, give me that in relation to the audit. What do you know about it? Because of good relation with the client. Very good. Absolutely correct. Very good, Prerna. Um, it's not being a brand ambassador, but it's like, for example, you are publicly commenting on future events of a client, even when you don't have sufficient evidence. But you're promoting the client or you're supporting the client in that way when you're not required to do that. So you are showing more of an biased approach towards that client. Got it? So very good. And being too closely aligned with the interest of the client, the legitimacy of the financial statements can be compromised. I can quickly let you know. I mean, we can quickly talk about. Um, we can quickly talk about the case in India that happened, the Satyam case. So PwC were the auditors, and when Satyam case came into everybody's limelight, or basically when it came into light, Satyam's case, initially the PwC auditors were seen supporting the management over some pointers to create ambiguity about it. Later on, when it was clarified, ultimately they were prosecuted. Okay. So here, when you are too closely related to the client, aligned with the client, because of any matters, it can be monetary, it can be some additional benefits that you're receiving, or within your own, with your own organization also. These are known as advocacy threats. Why? Because you are just you are just attaching yourself to a particular organization or client when your professional ethics don't allow you to do that. Okay, so here your professionalism is being compromised. So therefore, we call it as an advocacy threat. Okay, it's one of the biggest threats, and quite often you see lawyers supporting their clients even for the matters which is out of their areas. Okay, out of the discussions that they're doing, or many cases that you find, especially with the political parties, business connections, you always seen supporting it. So what is this? Advocacy threats. But then they say in order to live in this corporate world, being the competitions that we live in, advocacy threats are generally, always there, always. But it is a part and parcel. I mean, yes, on books it is a threat, but I'll tell you practically it is a part and parcel. In order to survive in the competition, you have to have this advocacies being done, and they actually take place. Okay. Anyways, the next thread that we can discuss about. So we are talking about threads: self-interest, self-review, advocacy. Next thread that I'm discussing about is a familiarity threat. Okay, that is familiar, being familiar. So what is a threat? I'll just give you one example. An auditor, suppose, who regularly plays golf with the CEO and CFO of the company, they have been auditing for over 10 years. This is a case law from UK cases that I've picked up. So this case was picked up as familiarity threat because they were familiar to each other. There was a lot of chances that professionalism was compromised here. He's not promoting the client, he's not doing anything, but they're more like friends. So when you have friendship established, there is a chance that the professional pointers are being compromised. Okay, because they become over sympathetic, right, for the client. So suppose if they want to issue a negative report, they may just refrain from doing it because they become more overly closed or overly sympathetic for the client. So it's a threat because it is affecting their professionalism, right? It is affecting their independence of thoughts, of reporting. So this is the reason why we have rotation of auditors concept also being there. Okay, now we've discussed the advocacy threats, familiarity threat, self-review threat, self-interest threat. Last threat that I'm going to discuss is intimidation threat. Anybody has an idea about what is an intimidation threat? You must have seen that in movies. That's very a common threat in movies. Very good. Threat of loss of business, fear of losing the business, pressure from the senior. Generally, it's not from the seniors, Suriti. I'll not say it's from the senior. Any views that you have, Ishan, Silent, Mukesh, Nikhil? Come on, yeah, you're not here to just hear me out, okay? Share your views. Pushpa, any issue, any points that you can add on? Shobit, Shweta, okay. Can I give you an example where you have a person exercising power on another person? So intimidation threat is like you have an area and there is, you know, like in movies, what happens? There is a very high profile person or person, who is into illegal activities, a criminal kind of a person comes to a plot of land and says, boss, it's my plot of land. Either you leave this plot or there is something bad going to happen to you. It's a common scene that we've seen in movies. What is it? He's intimidated. So it's the same threat. In professionalism, we can say that, for example, a dominant personality might try to influence the the awarding of contracts or the the awarding of the contract to a particular person. He may just stop. So what is this? Intimidation, which exhibit another person to perform its, which stops another person to perform its professional duties. Perfect. Okay. So just like one of the examples is given, like Pushpa gave an example that there is a client who is accounting for more than 30-40% of the sales of their entire company. So of course, if he is giving you a threat that boss, this is the position that is open and you have to give it to this person only, otherwise I'll leave your contract. Intimidation contract. This is the reason why the companies like or the business groups like, the big groups, whether it's the Microsoft group, the big players in the market in India or in abroad, they always have this intimidation threats, generally with the governments. Yes, and practically it is there. Practical. So I can give you one of the previous examples. So there was an intimidation threat, and actually it was converted into a negative side only when nano plant was supposedly to be set up in West Bengal. Okay, so when nano plant was supposedly to be set up in West Bengal, there were few considerations that were not taken care by West Bengal government. So then intimidation threat was there by Tata Group. And finally, it moved out of West Bengal and it went to Gujarat and it gave a lot of employment opportunities. And of course, other growth factors and all took place. So this is always there. So the person with power, with influence, with dominance would always be in a position of intimidation threat. So we are clear with these threats: self-review, self-interest, advocacy, intimidation threat, and familiarity threat. Any questions, queries here? Please put that in the chat box. Then let's have a discussion. Quickly, first point, and I'm going to call that person and that person will revert to me in the chat box. Please tell me which threat we are talking about here, why we are discussing it, because in the question you will be required to identify the threat. Okay, and then like the next step, we'll be discussing about the safeguarding. So we'll be discussing about the safeguarding also. Not just identification, safeguarding is also essential. Okay, now, first one, threat of dismissal over a disagreement about the application of an accounting principle. Which threat is it? I'm calling out the name. Aditya, can you tell me which is the threat? Please write down one threat. The first one. Very good. It's an intimidation threat. Threat of dismissal over a disagreement about the application of an accounting principle from your seniors. So that is intimidation, and I think that can be also, yeah, that is more like an intimidation threat, correct? But I can say that it's a self-interest threat also, because there is a disagreement about the application of an accounting principle. So I, again, as an accountant, I may just like to apply the accounting principle in a way that is giving more, maybe more revenue or more profits to the organization, which in turn will be benefitable to the employee as well. So to the accountant as well. So yes, it can have both the angles, but it's more likely intimidation that you should be writing. Okay, next one. Bunty, can you answer? Stating publicly that a client's results have improved on the previous year before the audit has been completed even. Which threat is this? Absolutely correct. Advocacy. Very good. Can I have Chahat? Can you answer it? The next one, providing actuarial valuations for an audit client. Very good. It's a self-review threat, because actuarial valuations that you have already done, you are doing it for an audit client. You've not checked whether it's actually applicable to them, which is actually it's the right way to apply the same valuations or not. Self-review threat. Free use of a client company's sporting facilities. Okay, so what is it? Chetan. It's very easy. Chetan, you're there? Very good. Familiarity threat. And now the last one. I think it's pretty clear. Pressure to ensure a reduction in fees. Intimidation. How it can be self-interest, Bunty? Tell me. How it is a self-interest threat? Can you explain me? Self-interest never has. Um, okay. So got it. You want to say that there can be an undue influence, that the client will say that, boss, you are using my sports facility, so in return you have to give me this fare. Yes. So self-interest can be there. Yes. Yes, it can be there. Yes, it can be self-interest also. Both can be there, right? Familiarity and self-interest both can be there. The last one, pressure to ensure a reduction in fees. Um, Gaurav, can you answer that? Very good. Intimidation. Very good. Because there is a threat and there's a pressure to ensure a reduction in fees. But however, there can be self-interest threat also, because there is pressure, there is influence, right? So there can be self-interest threat also. Yes, absolutely correct. Okay. Any questions, queries till this point? You didn't understand the third one? Third. Where is the third one? Providing actuarial valuations for an audit claim. You know, actuarial valuations are the valuations for the issues like gratuity and all that we do, and we get the reports prepared by actuaries. So suppose I have prepared the report for my company and I'm using the same reports for auditing the client. Okay, so then it becomes a self-review threat, because you're not looking into the different basis. Bunty, you will never have these kind of questions in the exam. Never. But Bunty, you'll have a bigger question where you have to identify if there is any threat. Because question number 2 is speaking about ethics for 20 marks, where you have multiple ethics angles covered. Okay, so then if there is a portion, then we'll cover it. Don't worry, you'll never have these kind of questions in the exam. Okay, Gaurav, third can also be advocacy. No, we're not supporting a particular client, not at all. We are just using the work that we have done for ourselves for another client. So it's a self-review thread. Are you clear, Pulkit, now? Great. People, anywhere, anybody has any questions, queries, quickly put it in the chat box. Then we'll discuss about safeguarding. We have talked about threats, but now we need to safeguard ourselves from the threat, right? So now let's talk about the next topic. Okay, let's talk about the next one, safeguards. Safeguards are essential, very essential. Why? Because we need to protect ourselves from the threats. So let's put the safeguards in place so that we are able to protect ourselves from the threats. Okay, and we are not in the situation where the professionalism is compromised. How can we safeguard? Number one, that every company has it, document the policies. So when you receive the offer letter and you accept it, you receive a big PDF of the document policies, which many of us don't go through, right? We just assume, yeah, we know about it. But then it's a very, very important angle because every company has different policies. Then rotation of the auditors, rotation of the senior personnel. It is also a very important safeguard. So we have the transfers between the departments. We have the rotation of the people because if a personnel of key importance, if he is holding the position for a long time, there is always a chance of a self-interest threat. Okay, that can always be there. So a few other safeguards that we can discuss about. Number one, transparency. Okay, so let's take one example. It's particular to that example that we can be discussing it. Safeguards against threats arising from inducements. Inducements is offering, making an offer. Okay, making an offer to a person. Transparency. Transparency means if there is any offer made by the senior management person to any professional, any accountant, that should be I'll not talk about only employees. So let's talk about if there is any offers which are made to the key management persons of the organization or a very critical third party of the organizations, then those should be disclosed, okay, by that particular person. So there has to be transparency that should be there, right? This is safeguarding. And even if the company is making the offer to any other employee who's a key management personnel in the organization, then that should also be disclosed. Registration, and this is the safeguards like we're adopting when such offers are made. Registration, okay, that is maintaining a log within the employing organization for or the counterparty, that is for any other party, that we are maintaining a log of the offers being made, and every company has that trail. So whenever you threaten the company, I'm going to leave the company, and they offer you, they always enter it in the records. Okay, so it's not that it just disappears, it is always there. Independent review by a third party should be there for those offers and all made so that we see if there is any undue advantage given or not. Charitable donations, donating the amount to charity and disclosing it to the government authorities is important, which is any amount of donations that you're making to the charities. Reimbursements, like for example, repaying the cost associated with inducements. So when there's an offer made as an hospitality, we do expenditures for that favoritism. Okay, so it can mitigate the threat. That is, if you're doing in return hospitality, in return you're paying for those what called better inducements made, then it reduces the threat. Why? Because then there's likely chances that a self-review threat and all will not be there. Okay, prompt return, returning the inducement is always a better option. Okay, that is if you received a very, very high value gift. Okay, very good offers have been made, but you want to stick with the company in order to gain the trust. You need to, if you return the gifts and inducements that have been made, it always shows a positive angle that yes, the threats for a self-interest and self-review is likely not there. Familiarity in also. There are companies where people stay for long. For long, the companies like people stay. So we have multiple companies. Now, earlier, Google were also part of it, but there have been few firings. But otherwise, people stay for long in Google. People stay for long in companies like Genpact. People stay for long in companies like Tata Group. Okay, so like this, you have the trustworthiness, and that reduces the threat for the organization because the people lay trust on the organization. So organization also lays trust on the employees or the professionals. Clear? This is how we safeguard the company's framework against the threats. Okay. And summarize, I'll just give this point, ethical conflict resolution. Okay, people, when there's an ethical conflict in the organization, the best way is consult the legal advisors or the professional like ACCAs. Okay, and if even after doing that, the matter is not getting resolved, then we should refrain ourselves from getting more involved in that matter and just get away from that. If you think that, being a part of the engagement team is affecting your objectivity, be just, cut off from the engagement team and leave that engagement only. This is your duty as per the ethical code of conduct for ACCS. Okay. Now comes a very important angle, ethical financial reporting. See, financial reporting should always be ethical. But we have had cases where it was not ethical, Satyam scam. I think most of the financial people in our accountants, they are already aware of this scam because it is one of the biggest scams for Indian history. Okay, where a scam of such large scale came out, where we had forged bank statements, forged deposit statements, overstated accounts receivable, understated accounts payables, creating the fake invoices. Everything was fraud until a confession came from Mr. Ramalinga Raju. And it actually affected the entire financial fraternity. Okay, and PwC's reputation was at stake. It lost a lot of clients, and the auditors also lost. Okay, the misappropriation was taken place, and then Satyam was taken over by Mahindra Satyam, and it's still continuing under its new name. Okay, then on the same line we have Toshiba fraud. Please go through it when you're reading the content of the book. On the similar line, so you can go through it. So what are the lessons do we learn from these, when we keep hearing about these scandals or these corporate failures? Number one, ethical policies and brand value are one of the most key areas for concern of an organization. Okay, so now the management should take steps to create such policies and more stringent ones, right? More stringent ones so that these scandals do not repeat in the future. Management information for ethical monitoring, that is, the report should be prepared in a way that gives details about the ethical decisions being taken, and basically they monitor the progress of the organization towards following the ethical approach. Okay, role of financial professionals like us, ACCs, is very, very vital. Is very vital because if we are following the ethical code of conduct properly, there will be very less chances of corporate failures, of frauds, of litigations, and of the situations where we have issues like bribery and all involved. Okay, so okay, now these are few suggestions. Now please understand, I'm just discussing these suggestions because when we're doing a question, these pointers will help us in writing our answer. Like how we can improve the ethical responsiveness for an organization. Okay, number one, Take the help of non-executive directors to ensure that they are a part of decision making, so that executive directors will be pressurized to take proper decisions. Okay, like that, we have open-minded management. That is, open-minded management means the managers, should take the most use of the opportunities which are available. So overall, if I summarize, the advice for ethical response is that business leaders or the management, they should give freedom to the managers to apply ethical policies in the right way. Okay, they should be able to evaluate the risk in the proper way, according to which the policies would be applied. Okay, and the ethical policy should become a part of organization strategy. Okay, they should be a part of organization strategy, because when ethical policies are embedded in the organization's policy structure, only then ethical principles will be, properly followed by the accountants and applied in the same way. Any questions, guys, till this point? Please tell me quickly in the chat box. Then we're going to discuss very important, very interesting area of, that is today's world's digital age, cyber security. Quickly put it in the chat box. Any questions and queries? Okay, so far is everything very well understood? Yes or no? I know we're in the middle of the session, but I just want to understand, are you able to, be in line with what I am delivering? Okay. Okay, then let's continue. Let's start with the new topic, accounting ethics in the digital age, which is the need for today. Everything is digitalized now. Okay, everything is digitized. So now in this world where everything is digitized, it's so quick. Frauds can take in a fraction of seconds. How do we protect our organization against it? What are the ethics that can be followed here? Okay, just give me a moment. Just give me a minute. I'll just take 1 minute. Okay, now let's discuss about accounting ethics in the digital age. This age, which is where, in the current times, our ethical issues can be easily compromised. security can be easily compromised, and we see that oftenly now with various organizations, public sector banks, in the government organizations, security organizations. They always, many times they discuss about the compromise of the security, data breach, where the data is shared. I think at least 10 times a day I receive call, whether I want loan, whether I want this, whether I want this, whether I want that, even when I have a DND activated. Okay. And I wonder how they get my contacts. It is because of this security issues. So this is such a big ethical issue that we are facing. I think Facebook was also a pretty some time back. It was questioned for sharing the members' data with many organizations. Okay. Because they had this customer data created with the help of big data analysis. Yes, we find that many times you submit your data at one place and you keep on, by referring to that particular connect, you keep receiving a lot of calls. So and basically it means to say that your data privacy has become such a challenge that it is easily breached. You can find, in fact, so the any details which are related to you can also be easily found on the internet. So in this world, in these times where we are almost half of the time our life is on internet, the privacy, data breach, all these have become quite critical issues, and which is even the accountants are also facing the same, because they have the breach, they can have the breach of data of their clients, of their customers, which is an important security angle. Plus, they can lose their contracts because of these. So we have four important ethical issues to consider here: cyber security, platform-based business models, distributed ledgers, and big data with artificial. It's not pinecifical, it just a spelling mistake. It is artificial intelligence. Let's talk about cyber security. When I say cyber security, we have intimidation threat. We have a threat that our data, whether it's internal or external, we can have a data theft of the same, right? Now, many times organizations, they lose a lot of their money because the hackers entered into the system. I think quite some years back in Pentagon, this is supposedly the most secured location in the world, also had data breach. Hackers hacked into the system and took out a lot of confidential data. Right? Everybody, are you able to correlate with the same? Guys, come on. Are you there? So we do have some people who are awake. Come on, wake up everyone. Great. Now let's have an example. There is a very famous data breach that took place. Like I gave you example of Pentagon. There is one more very famous data breach that took place. What was the data breach? It is known as the 2017 Equifax data breach. It is a credit reporting agency in US, and hackers entered into their system, basically hacking into the confidential data of the different clients, their credit rating, financial institutions, and it led to a loss of approximately, okay, that information is not there. It led to a loss in multiple millions, multi-millions for this company, because approximately 147 million customer data was at risk, was breached. So their personal information, their insurance numbers, their other tax numbers, pension registration numbers, everything was now in open. This is such a big data breach that took place. Okay, so any questions, queries? If yes, then put it. Next, we're discussing about platform-based business models. Platform-based. I think half of our life is now on platform-based models, whether it's Amazon, it's Flipkart, it's Airbnb, it's Uber, Ola, Google, Facebook, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, so many. Okay, so we are half of the time we're here where these platforms are not doing anything. There, they just bring producers or the manufacturers, suppliers, and the customers together at one place. Okay. Now they use artificial intelligence based on which they determine the, the customer buying patterns, and based on which the buying patterns and all of the customers, the inventory is maintained at the different warehouses. Generally, they maintain their own inventory also, or with the third party, inventory is maintained at various warehouses, so that there is no shortfall of inventory. At the same time, we don't have overstocking. With the help of artificial intelligence, they have it. So you can see that there is a prompt, you know, a prompt response to the customer's query, customer's demand, and customers' demand, products are also delivered promptly all across the world. Okay, so this is platform-based business models. Now, what are the ethical issues? Ethical issues is that first, where the companies like Amazon and all, they should not just only try to protect the interest of their employees, but also of the suppliers and the customers. Okay, now for example, I have received a product from Amazon. I don't like it. Okay, and I return it to Amazon, and in return, supplier replaces it or gives me a refund. Good. Now again, I received a product from Amazon, and it just broke on its own. When I opened it, it broke. So now I wrap it again and I say, it is a broken product. I won't take it and give me the refund. Now Amazon first will cross check with the seller. If the seller is with the seller, if the seller is insisting that, look, I did not send this broken product, then Amazon should take the stand to be with the seller, okay, rather than leaving it like this. So Amazon should take that stand. Now, what is that stand taking known as? Ethical resolution. So we are taking care of ethical principles and we try to solve it ethically, resolving it all ethically. So just like we have employee protection, we should have the supplier protection, customer protection, manufacturer protection should also be there. Okay, this is ethical point. Next, distributed ledger technology. I think you all have heard about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. It works on the principle of distributed ledger. Okay, I'll just play a video on distributed ledger technology just to have a brief idea, and then we'll go into the topic. Just allow me a moment.
Hello and welcome to the analyst. Owner to avoid lock. All nodes have the same.
Involved in this, but as well as In this respect, people sometimes talk about the blockchain as a trust machine, and out as records. These networks of encoding every asset to the blockchain. This service, why it's trusty.
Just a moment.
Once everything's perfectly organized, I'll start working on my thesis.
Animals. They did not use drones. Everyone should have a ledger that
By design, goods have moved into the digital realm as whole rooms of people.
Is it a revolution or just time? Perhaps something in between? One thing is clear.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the screen. I opened it, but it was not.
long ago.
Is it audible? Was it audible? Okay. No, I have played it. But anyways, so this is a very good video on how the blockchain and the distributed ledger technology came in place. Because blockchain is the most better, the perfect example when we talk about distributed ledger technology. That is precisely distributed ledger technology. I'll give you more examples, I do it practically, or I've done it practically for my company. So I can give you that example. But anyways, let's just have these two videos, small videos played to understand it better, the DLT. Okay, so please just have focus on the screen and enjoy the videos. At the same time, understand it.
Long ago, when humans began to farm and keep animals, they did not use money as we do today. Instead, they traded goods or services with each other. This is known as the barter system. After the barter system, the ledger system emerged. A ledger system is a way of keeping track of transactions between individuals and organizations. Ambu had a sack of paddy that he promised to both Chiru and Nili. He changed his mind when he found out that trading with Chiru for a goat was more profitable than trading with Nili for 2 chickens. He broke his promise to Nili and made a deal with Chiru instead. Such incidents lead to disputes and complaints later on. In this situation, they need the help of an intermediary. The intermediary records the transactions on their behalf. So here comes a centralized ledger system. Relying on an intermediary for transactions can also have some risks. An intermediary with a centralized ledger may tamper with the records. To avoid such problems, everyone should have a ledger that records all the transactions. A ledger system that is interconnected and verifiable by everyone is called a distributed ledger system. Bitcoin is a currency system that uses a decentralized distributed system as its core concept. This inspired the development of blockchain technology. Blockchain technology enables us to bypass intermediaries, prevent duplicate payments, resist hacker attacks, ensure document integrity and accelerate transactions. Blockchain technology has various applications in today's world, such as healthcare, transfer contracts and wills, supply chain management, protection of copyright and royalties, voting, cryptocurrency, the Internet of Things, asset administration, insurance, banking, and financial markets.
It was a good video, I think. The other video link I sent in the group. Okay, and so you can watch the video. It's a more technical angle into the blockchain technology and basically DLT. So another interesting example that I can give you is when you book movie tickets, when you book airline tickets, what happens? When we do airline ticket reservations, it allows users to book tickets and select the seats immediately, right? And generally with the movie tickets also, we do the same thing, or can be any tickets. So I'm just taking ticketing as an example. Okay. Now reservations are updated real time, and after a seat or slot is booked, then nobody else can select the seat again. So what is precisely DLT or distributed ledger technology? It is a system that allows a network of participants to maintain a shared record of transactions. For example, in Bitcoin, it happens when you buy a Bitcoin and when the other person buys a Bitcoin, then it goes into the digital ledger technology system. In a practical, for example, in practical cases, like the companies like the Big Fours, Genpact, Sutherland, there are many companies who maintain, who have these DLT systems, and now every MNC generally has a DLT system. So what happens if you're working on a client and there are 20 employees or 100 employees, 200 employees working on the same client or internally on multiple datas, every data is stored on cloud. Okay, and I suppose if I'm making a change in the cloud, it will show that Miss Anshu has made a change in the cloud. Okay, these documents, and every user who has got access to that will be updated by the same. Okay, so you have an audit trail, you have a record, plus not entire data is maintained at one place. Not everybody has access to everything, right? The work is distributed, the placing is distributed. So for a hacker, in order to hack, he has to hack from all the 200 sources. That's so challenging. So it gives the speed up of the transaction is there because you're not depending upon any one person, one system. There are a lot of people who are capable of doing that records, and also from the hackers there's a security which is there. So it's a very, very, very big point, and this is the reason why DLT is in place. Okay, systems don't go down. Very rarely you will go to a bank and you will find that systems have gone down as frequently as it was before the core banking system, because now the entire banks are running together, all the branches. So now to hack it, it is almost next to impossible. I mean, for bigger banks with a lot of branches. So it gives them comfort, it gives them security. Data is, everything is digitized. Everything is now actions can be taken more quickly. Transactions are processed quickly. So these are a lot of advantages that have taken place with DLT. So distributed ledgers, unlike the traditional databases, they lack a central data store or administration function because there are multiple users and multiple people who are controlling the data. All participants, they share a common and updated view of records simultaneously. This characteristic reduces the potential for manipulation as transactions can have multiple witnesses. Moreover, cyber attacks become more challenging since all distributed copies must be attacked simultaneously. Now, a recent example, HM Land Registry, that is Her Majesty Land Registry in the UK, has successfully gone into the DLT technology. So, however, involving DLT in areas like properties, it's like very challenging. Okay, so because it has got a lot of confidential and personal data, PAN, like in India, if I say, we have the PAN numbers, Aadhaar numbers, and a lot of okay, and like this, we have different, different data that can be breached, that is at risk. So with DLT, we can safeguard it, right? But however, so with DLT, it can be safeguarded. But then it is complex because applying DLT in those areas which have a lot of physical, physical documentations in place. Now, this becomes challenging. But in UK, everything is digitized, so it was more of a comfortable position to apply it. Plus, it helped to store the records and do the processing at different places. So safeguarding was there. However, there's only one one problem that can take place with DLT is confidentiality. Since there are multiple users from, there are multiple people looking at the data, and there are multiple people who have access to that data, confidentiality is generally can be at breach. So this is a major problem with DLT. Okay, so accountants must evaluate the risk of hacking or unauthorized data access, like we just discussed about that security issue, prioritizing the public interest when handling vast amount of sensitive information. So there's a very big risk with DLT. Now there is very famous example given, or basically it's a regular day-to-day example given, that Kotak Mahindra's bank's DLT platform for cross-border remittances. That is when they're receiving or giving remittances, from that is other countries. So just like we discussed about the benefits of DLT, there was a faster transactions, reduced cost, because now it is distributed. So the transaction cost, hidden cost are all reduced to nil generally, or not there. Enhanced security and transparency is there, just like we discussed. Okay. So it is benefiting millions of people around the world. And now DLT is extending to almost every major organization, every major bank systems in the world, because you can see the world has become so, I would say, I'm just forgetting that term. Okay, the world has become, it so, what do you call, I'm just forgetting the term that I wanted to use. Okay, anyways, there is always a high risk that the security can be compromised, because the more we are going in a digitized way, the more hackers are also getting involved in the system, and they're also having new tools, new methodologies, new methods to hack into the system, and they're hacking, and the people are losing their confidential data. This is one of the reasons why we have WikiLeaks in place. This is a result of hacking only. Okay, whistleblowers, hackings, all this have led to. So it is not healthy for an organization, for a country, and therefore DLT is a better alternative to the traditional way of maintaining the databases. Okay. Now let's go to the next portion: big data and AI. Big data is the need of the day. You log into Amazon, you log into Flipkart, you log into Google for that matter, and suppose I type, ACCA classes. The next time I log in, I will have a list of ACCA learning providers in front of me the moment I log into Google, right? Or there will be pop-ups for the same. I go to Amazon and I say, or I go to make my trip and I want to say the best holiday destination in the world. And then I'll receive pop-ups, and I will receive some mails. I will receive a lot of communications relating to the holiday destinations only. So it's based on the choices that you make. There is artificial intelligence of the computers. They read the pattern of the customers and they give you the inputs based on your patterns. Okay. This customer behaviors are there. Now, this is a very risky thing also, because it's like Facebook, it's like Amazon, Flipkart, which have data and the patterns of the customer's behavior for the purchasing purposes. Okay, or maybe their interest areas. It is generally, now I'm telling you, it is sold to the various other third parties who buy this data, and they try to approach customers who are meeting their criteria. So this is such a risky area, but then big data is there because the quantum of data has become so used, especially on the social media and the other platform-based models, that using the traditional methods is almost not possible. So then we rely on big data to analyze that data, because the companies want to take that analysis and have the customer base, so that have more profitability. So this is big data. and the use of AI with big data. Okay, so let me just talk about few things. Like big data is there. We know that big data is, these are extremely large data sets which are analyzed computationally or through the computers to uncover patterns, trends, associations in the human behavior. Now it is not, it is like I said, it is artificial intelligence. What is AI? AI is when the computer is thinking like humans, AI. And it is machine learning. What is machine learning? Machine learning is we're utilizing the networks, the research, so that we can extract data, okay, without making combinations for specific conclusions. Meaning to say that we're using the the help of computer systems in order to do the research work, analysis work, create the patterns, okay, and then draw out conclusions. So it is just like you are replacing a human being and making him more faster, more accurate. This is what is machine learning about. Okay, like we discussed about Flipkart, I gave you the example. So please go through the same when you're reading this chapter. Okay, just once go through the same. Now, how AI can provide multiple solutions to the problems that normal businesses face? We have fraud detection can take place. See, with AI, you can do anything. I can apply AI here and to see what is the average time spent by the students on the question solving. I can apply AI here to see what is the average attendance by a student in a month. I can apply AI here to see what is the average screen time of a student. Okay, what is the average time that they're taking to reply to a question? So we can apply AI to everything. So like we can apply to the AI to the employees' data, the behavior patterns, to see if there is any behavior pattern which is deviating from the normal behavior, to see if there is any fraudulent activity going on in the company or not. Image recognition can be there. Now, I think you all are aware, you want to buy a product, you don't see a list, you have that requirement at home, you click a photo, image capturing is there in the product, and you will get suggestions for the same. So this is image recognition. Customer service chatbots. Have you ever encountered it? Have you ever used a customer service chatbot? Anyone? Only one student has used it. Okay. Because we use it now everywhere. In all the customer service customer service chats that you do with all the customer service agents, first agent is always AI. The AI, when you're not satisfied with AI, only then you move to customer agents. So what is the replication of the same? We're having less number of work speed. The staff is needed now. Less employment opportunities. Now AI is replacing humans. So it's a big risk that is taking place. But at the same time, we are having more accuracy. We are having, timely reply of the queries. So all these positive angles are there. But yes, chatbots are now AI. AI-powered chatbots are there. Okay, and the best part, they're available 24/7 and no leaves are there. So these are some of the advantages that are there, but disadvantages, it is leading to the more unemployment of the workforce. Okay, because the requirement for human beings is now getting reduced. Okay, so we have multiple ethical issues in this digital age, multiple, because it is digitized. So we have a lot of ethical issues that can come up. Number one, determining the relevant facts. Okay, so when you have ethical issues that come up in the digitized age or in the digital networks, computer programs, when you have all these ethical issues relating to these cyber attacks, your AI, big data, and digital platforms, your distributed ledger technologies and all, what you should do. So number one, determine the facts. Okay, that what exactly has taken done. Number one. Number two, once you have determined the fact that what exactly has happened, then identify what are the threats relating to ethical issues that has taken place. Then identify what are the compromised fundamental principles where there is a breach has taken place, and then suggest what can be done. Okay, what can be done to mitigate such threat? What safeguards we can adopt internally, externally to mitigate such threats? And we should look in for alternatives to ensure that such issues don't reoccur. Am I clear with these steps? Let's have one example now. Okay, and we'll have a discussion. It's a very interesting example. Everybody, I want you to read this example. I'm reading it then. I'm giving you 2 to 3 minutes. Think about it and then we'll discuss it. Okay, when I say everybody, I want everyone to be involved. I will be calling out your names. Okay, especially the ones who have not been very active in discussion. So be ready with your answer. BOR owns and lets properties throughout Europe. It's a very, very good question. It is funded through a number of bank loans. Continuing bank support requires that EBITDA, debt service covenants means the ratios, are maintained at a certain level and the bank reviews this at each year end. At the last year end, covenant was only just met. As the last year end covenant was only just met, the financial controller of BOR is new to the role and has been asked by the finance director to review the latest draft financial statements of the company in order to get up to speed on what we do. The finance director has indicated that he has reviewed the financial statements in Europe and is happy with them. In performing a review, the financial controller identifies that investment properties in Europe have for the first time being measured using the fair value model, whereas those in other jurisdictions have not. The increase in value from the historical cost to fair value has been recognized in the current year profits, that is only for the European properties. The strategic review at the start of the financial report refers to significant increase in the property values across Europe. Significant. During the year end, some downward volatility elsewhere. During the year and some downwards volatility elsewhere. Okay. I know there's some terminologies you may not be able to understand, but don't worry, we'll discuss it. Discuss the accounting and ethical issues arising from the scenario. Identify actions that the financial controller should take to resolve them. Please don't jump to right answers. There is a need, read it again. Take 2 minutes and we'll discuss it. Okay, just 2 minutes, frame your answer and then we'll discuss it. Please do not look at the solution, my request. Okay, people, please start typing your answers whenever you're ready. Okay, I don't want big answers. Just give me pointers so that we can elaborate and we'll discuss it. But yes, this is the kind of portions that can be asked as extracts in your questions, especially section B. And section A also question 2. Everybody, please type your answers. Try not to write the same points that your friends have written. Try to add points. I'm just giving you 1 minute more. Type it. Received answers from Pulkit, Indrapreet, Nikhil, Gaurav, Lalita, Shweta. Can I have some answers? Aditya, can I have some input? Bunty, Chahat, can I have some input? Chetan, Hitesh, Ishan, Navneet, Prerna, Pushpa, Shobit, Shrinu, Suriti. Can I have some inputs from you as well? Whatever it is, even a one-liner would be good. But at least you will start with a habit of thinking and writing. Come on, everyone. I'm giving you 1 minute more. Please type it. Thirty seconds more, guys. No issues in the breathe. Have faith. When I be taking IFRS, I will let you know from the basics. Okay, I will give you a brief up of the basics. I may not go in very detailed solving of the questions because that's not there in the syllabus. But still, I would cover the basics of IFRS before I take up advanced portions here. Okay, I will do it. I know, most of you have got exemptions. So I consider that, and I would be using the merged portions in the syllabus. Okay, so almost everybody is reverted. No need to be thanked. It is my duty to make sure that you are doing it. Okay, now let's discuss. Many of you, so here the situation, one point is very clear. He has followed one very wrong accounting policy. As per, I know many of you have not covered that portion, so don't worry for that. Okay, when we'll cover that relevant IFRS, I would be taking care of these portions as well. So when we do the IAS 40, IAS 16, I'll be covering that. When we do for PPE, okay. So now as per IAS 40, that is investments and investment property, it says that whenever you are applying any fair value revaluation, you should do it for all the properties everywhere in the world, whatever the the company owns together. It's not that you can do in isolation one property and the rest 9 properties you'll not do. You have to apply it to all the properties, all the investment properties owned. Point number 1. Second, it has to be done retrospectively. So here, 2 mistakes are done. First, it is only done to the properties in Europe and not the other countries. Second, it is not done retrospectively, it is done prospectively, which is wrong. So this is a major accounting issue that has come up. Okay, so this we have to highlight that this is a major accounting issue. Now let me read the answers who have telling me apart from this, something else. It is unethical from accounting point of view, as change in policy to determine the, okay, you have done this, disclosure. Disclosure on the change in policy should be done. Very good, Pulkit. It has to be disclosed of to the stakeholders of the financial statements of this company that there is a change in accounting policy that has taken place. Overstating EBITDA as bank has to review for loan purposes. Very good, Gaurav. Very good, highlighted that why they have done it, why they have resorted to this kind of fair valuation, because maybe the other properties are loss making. So if they make a revaluation of the profit making properties where the property value has gone up, EBITDA will also go up. So they would be able to maintain the EBITDA as is required by the banks. The policy has been chosen to meet covenants requirements perfectly as we spoke. Very good. Yes, very well. Very good point also, Chahat, that we should look into the reasons that why other properties have gone down. Is the economy has gone down or some decision making was not correct due to which the property values have gone down? Very good, Lalita. You're not wrong. Previous year figures should be reinstated. We don't say restated, reinstated. Because the changes will take place retrospectively. So, you know what is the loss? Why they have not taken it retrospectively? Because if they apply it retrospectively, the EBITDA will not change so much, right? Because the previous year figures will also be reinstated, right? So this is the reason why they have intentionally not made the changes retrospectively. Aditya says it looks like boss tried to manipulate the accounts by using the fair value model. Yeah, this we have already done. Yeah, you can say that. It's called creative accounting that has been used. Very good. The method of recognition need to be at par with other jurisdictions. So very good. So all of you have highlighted that. Oh, wow, wonderful. One point you have made the changes. The changes in fair value of investment property should not be recognized to PN. Okay, let me do the correction. When there is a downward revaluation, then we make all the changes go through the P&L account. When there is upward, then either you go through revaluation account or you go through P&L account, as the case may be, that we study later. Right? Yeah, it is OCI. Yeah, it is OCI item if it is a revalued item. If it was previously revalued and then it is downward, then it is OCI. Otherwise, it is directly downward revaluation, then it is directly going to PNL. So we'll study it. Let's not go into the technicalities right now. Okay. So we know the situation now. All of you have given it very good, very correct way. But now you know the situation, and this is what we have to write in the introduction paragraph, that what exactly has gone wrong with the accounting issue. So then we can elaborate on the IAS, like the BOA has applied IAS 8 incorrectly because that has been done prospectively as per the IAS 8. We should do it retrospectively. So due to which the current year gains is looking more higher than what it should be if the previous year figures were reinstated. Okay, I'll talk about this point, Pulkit. I'll talk about this point. Okay, just give me a minute. I'll just complete this topic and then I'll talk about. Okay, then, so these errors that have taken place, it shows that the financial director is lacking professional competence, because the one of the principles of code of ethics is that he should have professional competence. Of course, objectivity, integrity may not, integrity, more than integrity, it's objectivity, which is at a risk here as a threat. But along with that, professional competence is also not made here. Okay, so there is integrity, objectivity, as well as, professional competence and due care. It's all at threat. So all these principles are breached here. So if I'm writing this question in the exam, apart from what you have given me, I have to also highlight the breach of principles in order to answer the ethics question. But of course, none of you did. That's okay. So that will go in a separate paragraph. Okay, then adding to it, then we should also think about it that the financial controller ideally should discuss these ethical concerns and the accounting concerns with the financial director, okay, so that in addition to the point that we mentioned, if there's an investment property, impairment and all will also take place. So we're just applying the knowledge of IAS 8 that we need. Okay, and if the financial controller, no, if the finance director finds this person to be unfit because he's not shown the professional competence, then ideally he should look into the replacement of this person. Okay, replacement. And in fact, he can also raise this matter to the audit committees, audit members, and the management. Okay, that this kind of activity is taking place. Right, so then if there's a need, they can take the legal counsel opinion also. And if the management and if the directors are not ready to change it, then he should resign. Okay, and he should not be a party of this manipulations. He should do the resignation. Yes, this becomes a full story because we all talked about accounting issues. Ethical issues are equally to be no-pointed. Okay, if this is asked in the question, this particular case, this is going to carry at least 10 to 15 marks, 10 marks. So see, if you explain accounting issues, you're just getting 4 marks because 6 marks is for ethical issues. So then in that case, you have to just explain that in detail, just like we understood. Okay. Before I take up your portions, I'm stopping here for today. I won't take more portions. Now please don't leave. Few tasks I'm giving you, I'll put that in the group as well. For today, I want you to revise through this book, whatever portions we have covered today. Okay, please just go through your ACCA study resources, okay, and just have a look at it, have a feel of it, of your articles and all, so that you can use them later. Now, this example, I want you to go through it properly. You will know how to write because tomorrow I will be giving you a homework to write. So I want you to be absolutely clear with it. You have doubts, you'll ask me in the tomorrow session. I'm giving you 2 homeworks. Exactly. This is the reason, like I've given you oral answers. Gaurav, we discussed it orally. I want you to go through this answer. This answer is given here. Okay, exactly how we have discussed, but of course, written it in the paragraph way and the way that is desired to be written in the exam. Not exactly word by word like this, but the way of writing should be so. So this is why I'm saying, please go through the answer today, how the answer has been framed. You will have an understanding so that tomorrow when I give you homework and you send me your answers, you would be able to understand how we are going to write the answers. Okay? I will be evaluating to see how is the, how you are writing your answers. So from day 1 only, you would be able to correct yourself and improve yourselves so that by the time we finish off with our syllabus, you are already in a place where you're writing it in the way that is desired. Okay. Now, I am giving you one homework. Activity 3. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Okay. Activity 3, activity 4, I want you to go through the same. Both these. Okay, because then the question that we discuss tomorrow, you will be able to, think for that question in a more better way. So for me, today I'm giving you 2 homeworks, activity 3, activity 4 to be done at your end. You have doubts, you have queries, you will ask me tomorrow's session. Okay. Okay, another thing that was asked by Pulkit and Lalita, that ma'am, why are we referring to IAS and not IFRS? So I'll tell you, initially we had IAS, all IASs created. A lot of IASs were, were basically, you can say that a lot of IASs were prepared by the Accounting Standards Committee, International Accounting Standards Board. We call it IASB. Okay, so when these IASs were created, that was a different time. But when the times got changed, there were some changes that were made to these IASs. But then as the times were more changing, those IASs were becoming more redundant, that they could no longer apply to the situations that the businesses faced as challenging. So that led to the creation of new accounting standards that we known as IFRS. So not for every topic we have IFRS. For some topics we have IAS, and for the other topics which got converted, completely changed, or we had new additional topics, then we had IFRS. Now, whenever we have a new additional topic, that is basically created as IFRS rather than IAS. Am I clear with this now, Pulkit and Lalita? That why do we refer to some as IAS and some as IFRS? Okay. So I do hope that today's session was engaging, and who said IAS is not applicable in UK? It is applicable. International Accounting Standards Board sets out accounting standards for all the accounting standards in the world. Okay, so UK has IFRS as well as the selective IASs also. US is complete US GAAP. No other accounting standards. US, Canada, they have complete US GAAP. Australia, okay, they have their own gaps. They don't follow IFRS. So IFRS and IAS, they go hand in hand. Okay. I do hope that today's session was understandable by everyone. If you have any concerns and queries, you can discuss with me tomorrow. Okay. And thank you all for the session. Please be there for the session tomorrow as well as on time. And make sure they're attending the live sessions. And I do hope that today's theory was not that boring theory. Don't worry, we'll have more practical angles also. But I wanted to start with the basics, so I started with ethics first. Okay, thank you all. And would be sharing the notes, but it would take some time to update and, just share the notes. So just wait for the notes. I'll share the topic after the class. Okay, bye-bye. Take care. And see you all tomorrow morning. Thank you. Thanks for the session. Bye.